Welcome, lunatics, mayhem, delvers, and idiots. This is John Gallagher from Raven. We're going to take you into the Tampa Morgue.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Tampa Morgue. This is episode number 19 with my co-host, Mr. Ed Webb. What's up, dude?
Mr. Anderson, how are we doing today, brother?
19 episodes. That's I'm surprised we've done that many so far, actually.
Yeah, and it seems like we just started, but I can't say that it's been a disappointment at all.
No, we're
right?
learning as we go. Every episode is a lesson on what to do and what not to do.
My recording skills have gotten better.
Your editing skills have gotten good.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Having to fix everything and sometimes post-production.
Yeah,
it's cool,
post-production
is
is major around here. Post-production is a huge thing with the show. Editing.
We need to get ourselves a Joe Rogan Jamie so that
somebody. Right?
I'm kind of acting like the Jamie.
Yeah, it's somebody would be very cool. But it's crazy. It's already what? So everyone will be listening to this show at different times, but it's already November 10th. Like, Christmas shit is everywhere. Like, I went to the mall today and it's unbelievable. Like, Halloween was over. The next day they were pushing out Christmas shit. It's especially, I don't know about over there in Florida right now, but over here in Europe, it's Christmas shit everywhere already.
It's funny because my daughter's driving now. She's getting her license in a couple weeks, so I'm letting her drive. Huh? Yeah, no, she's killing it, man. But we're driving and I'm seeing like people have Thanksgiving blow-ups, like, turkeys or whatever on their lawn, which I never saw that before, but I'm like, really?
I think that's kind
So
of
now,
new. Kind of a new
I think
thing.
so. And then all of a sudden we drove by this house and they had the whole fucking Christmas theme out. Their whole yard was, I'm just like, no, 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 no. It used to be you did it after Thanksgiving. Like Thanksgiving was the launching point, or maybe the week before because you're going to have family over or something, but now the 10th, no, no way. My wife just said it. Can you get the Christmas stuff down? I'm like, what are we, 80? What are we
We're
doing?
almost. We're not
No.
80, but we're getting
Yeah.
up
I'm like,
there.
nope. Which I'll lose that fight anyway. But the point is that I think she just wants to put the tree up. She don't realize we have two fucked up cats that have never seen the tree, have no idea what the tree
they're
is.
gonna have a
And
ball.
they are going to fuck it up like there's no tomorrow. And I'm going to just like, what do? You sit there and you just kind of like shrug your shoulders, right? Oh, well.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Oh, well. Told you.
I did hear that they're like, I think Walmart maybe, or some of those stores are actually not going to open up on Black Friday, which is cool because that's a fucking crazy,
So what
insane
they
joke
used to
anyway.
do, they used to open like after 6 or 7, and Target used to do it. So you would wait in line with a little tag or something like a Target. And if you wanted something specific like a TV, like, they have these fucking TVs for like $10, and everybody kills each other. They hand you a tag if you're in line first so that you're automatically, there's no running to the TVs. If you don't have the tag, you don't get the TV. It's that simple, right?
I think it's cool that they're getting rid of it. I used to work in a toy store when I was much younger, back when you just worked.
Man.
There was like people just beating the shit out of each other. And as entertaining as it is to watch those videos on YouTube of the door opening and just total brawls, let people stay home with their
How many people
family.
have been, stampeded, man? I mean, it's ridiculous, man. And honestly, we only did it because we would eat so much, and then go walk around. We never shopped. The only thing we always bought, because Walmart on the day, the Thanksgiving when they opened up early, they always had movies like DVDs and Blu-rays for like $2,
They had that big
$5.
fucking bin with like
Oh my God.
hundreds of them. You had to dig right through that shit.
No. They would have them actually alphabetized in little cubicles, like boxes that were pre-made for Black Friday. And you could walk over there and see the movies, the actual covers. But I mean, dude, you had fucking all these people coming in, and it was like, who wants to deal with that, man?
People stay home with their families. Just wait till the next.
And my kids are grown up, so they're lucky if they don't get cash.
Yeah, and cash rules at the end of the day. And by the way, the track we opened up with was "Edge of a Nightmare" from Raven off their latest record, "All Hell's Breaking Loose," on Silver Lining Music. And in about 10 minutes or so, we'll have John Gallagher joining us from Raven. So he'll be here before you know it. And that's
another band we grew up listening to. I can remember in New Jersey having Stay Hard. You know what I mean? It's like just seeing the back of those album covers and shit was just brings back a big time memory.
Yeah. So and they've been around for a long time. They've seen the scene change a million times, and definitely looking forward to talking to him tonight. And I want to actually thank Florida Local DIY, who actually reviewed our podcast, which I was totally surprised to see. Very cool. I know you saw that too, Ed.
I did. And I was very grateful, because it means that people are actually listening, and, they're kind of getting an idea of, we're not just a Q&A, you know what I mean? We're kind of, we do a deep dive into these people that we're interviewing,
as much as possible. Yeah. It's
I mean, obviously, and sometimes the internet gets it wrong, as we've seen in a couple things that we've
you never know. I mean,
like Dave Austin, some of the things that
Dave was
we found
great,
out
though.
Yeah, man, he's awesome. And it was great for him to, shed light on his history, some that might've been wrong. But
I saw that there was a book that someone had written about Nasty Savage that I guess is like 90% incorrect. I saw that actually the next day after we talked to him. I saw that
how do you
online.
get away with that? How do you get away with
don't
that
know.
legally? You know, I mean, you're literally putting out something that's like full of non-existent facts that happened, and how can you capitalize on that? But I guess, welcome to
Yeah, there
America.
was like
I guess.
misquotes and all that stuff. But yeah, it was definitely cool. I mean, Dave was great, like we said, and the feedback we got was awesome. Even from the guys from Nasty Savage, we heard from like Nasty Ronnie, Dave Orman, Scott. You know, it was very cool. So we really appreciate anybody who checked out that show. And just like the past shows, you can find them all on basically wherever we can be found.
Spotify, Apple, everywhere. YouTube.
Everywhere. Yeah, and Ed, you've been checking out. So you've been listening to some. So you listened to the new, basically the new Suffocation, which I have not listened to really. So I'm gonna be honest, I have not really checked it out yet.
Yeah, man. Hymns from the Apocrypha. What's a weird name? Yeah, I've been really, really killing it at the gym lately. Me and Bryce started a new gym, and I don't know if it's just the machines there, but I've literally been going berserk for the last 6 weeks. And so I saw it was on Spotify, so I was like, oh shit, let me check it out. And I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Frank, for sure, but this record is heavy as fuck. And I've been lucky. This
is the first album without Frank, right? This everything else is done the vocal. Yeah, this is the first one without.
Correct. Him. So, and I've been lucky to have over the years, do shows with Suffocation, with Frank. Did the 70,000 Tons he was singing. Did a bunch of shows. We played Costa Rica with Suffocation when I was in Massacre. So we did. I've done a bunch of shows with them, with Frank the Tank, and but I got to tell you, man, when I saw Ricky Myers sings for him now, and when I saw him, I knew him from before, but when we did the Mass Devastation in Georgia, I was just like, first of all, it was their first show back from COVID, so they hadn't played out in 2 years or something like that. I've never heard something so fucking loud and so heavy ever. Like, they fucking were so ridiculous, and his vocals were just fucking sick. And I was like, well, I guess, sometimes when you get a new singer, sometimes it doesn't go your way, but yeah, no, this dude is fucking solid. And the record is, it's Suffocation. 100%.
What, that came out on Nuclear Blast, right? I think it was November 3rd.
I believe so, yeah. Yep. Yeah. And, and the riffs, I mean, obviously Terrence is a fucking genius, man. He's been doing this for a long time. But yeah, no, it's definitely, I dig it a lot. It's one of those albums like the new Cannibal. When you listen to it, you're just like, okay, cool. They're fucking back, and they're crushing hard. 9 songs, 9 songs over 40 minutes of music. Who's doing that nowadays? Most bands are putting out 30 minutes of fucking, whatever. So yeah, they're killing it. And of course, me and you have both been checking out the other new record
Mr.
that just came out.
It's
man,
Ashes,
that Autopsy,
Organs, Blood, and Crips. Peaceville, of course. I mean, it's fucking awesome. The first track, Rabid Funeral, is just a perfect starter. Like I said, I've listened to the album a few times, and I will definitely, it'll be a regular play for a while. But yeah, I mean, it's just, 11 tracks, I believe, on that?
Yeah, and the thing about Autopsy is they just seem to get better and better. It's crazy, because not that they aren't good. You know what I mean? They're fucking great. I saw them at the Maryland Death Fest, which of course was the infamous fucking
the Sex in the Pit, right?
Fest in the fucking, yeah. But and they just, I mean, for a dude to, like Browning, to play drums and sing, it's not easy. I don't care who you are, who tells you it is. It's not, because you're doing 4 things. Think about that. Every hand and every foot is doing something different, and you have to think about singing on time with all that. That's not
especially
easy, man.
When 80% of the population probably can't even chew gum and tie their shoes at the same time.
And walk at the same time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um,
And when I heard that Throat Saw song when they came out with that
yeah, it
video,
was the single. Yeah,
um,
the first single they
yeah,
did.
I was just like, holy shit, this is gonna be, it's gonna be real deal, man. So
This is the
yeah,
10th
no, I
full
mean,
length from Autopsy. And I mean, like you said, I think it keeps on getting better. They had Wes Ben Scoter do the artwork for it. He's done obviously work with Cattle Decapitation, Deceased, Defiled, Incantation, Bloodbath, and the list just goes on and on. But I don't know. I don't ever really expect to be disappointed with an Autopsy record. And
no,
again, Reifert, Eric, Danny, and Greg definitely delivered on this one.
for sure. I mean, definitely. Yeah, it's one of those. What were we talking about? Like with we've talked about it a bunch of times on here. Like, what do you get 2 weeks out of a record before it's like you're done? And I don't know, man. This is one of those records that when I put it on in the gym, I think I can listen to it, you know, multiple times without, I think it'll exceed the 2 week listening scope
Yes.
for sure. And the suffocation, because I've been no stranger to saying that I don't listen to, I mean, nowadays death metal as much unless it literally, like the Cannibal. I find myself putting it on because, I'm always been a huge fan of George. And, with Rattan and those songs that were written are definitely solid fucking tunes on that record. Not that old records don't have solid tunes, don't kill me, but I'm just saying that this record, you can tell the writing between all the members. You always know Alex and Paul's songs, Rob when he writes a record, but when Eric's songs, because he's got a different style and they just work. They just work. So, yeah, definitely this Autopsy is fucking, I think it's going to be a barn burner for a while.
Definitely. I also saw that a band that Florida people definitely know, Lake Fort Worth, Raped Ape, announced on their Facebook that they're re-releasing the Terminal Reality on Dive Bomb Records, which was recorded at More Sound in '92. I think it was self-released in '93. It'll be the 30th anniversary edition, remix, remastered, a bonus track. Rape Ape, they formed in 1988, and I think the last show they did was 2013, but I think that was like a special, just a special show basically. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing if they come back at all. If you remember, '96 they changed over to Pain God. They changed the band name. But that's kind of interesting. And I guess they were jamming yesterday, but Left to Die starts their 14 show tour coming up here.
Yep.
I think they start tomorrow in Vegas, and they play like California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado.
Yep. Whole West Coast tour this time around.
Yeah, Seattle, Portland, a bunch of dates. I saw that's going on.
I think Matt and Terry are like two of the hardest working dudes in metal, man. They're just fucking with the 79 bands they're each in, man. They just fucking. Man, I wonder how. I bet you their beds don't have many miles on them, man, because they just fucking. They're never in
multitasking. Yeah,
yeah, man. It's awesome though. I mean, can't get enough music. That's for sure.
None of us are getting younger, so do it while you can. Just crank it out. And
exactly.
I saw the Vincent Crowley Band will release a new album. They just announced two. Anthology of Horror on Hammerheart Records. Was that February 2024? We all know Vincent. He was on the show. God, I think he was definitely one of the early shows.
Yep.
Vincent from Infidel Reich, Acheron, Incantation, Nocturnus, Wolfen Society. This will be the follow-up to 2021's Beyond Acheron. I also saw, you remember the Rhoads?
Yeah.
They signed a deal with Massacre Records. They're going to release their next studio album, Rattle the Cage, which is a follow-up to the 2019 album, Brotherhood of Metal. That band's been around. They put out Rock Hard in '80, Wild Dogs in '82, In the Raw '83. I think they were 80 to 86. Then I think they stopped, and then I guess 2008, and then they're still going now. So yeah, the Rhoads. I was glad to see they have a new record coming out, and I know Death Metal Dave actually the other day had Scott Burns on his show. For people who don't know the In Your Face show with Death Metal Dave. I haven't checked out the show yet though, and I'm hoping there's going to be a link for it. I did order the book, the Scott Burns Sessions, which should be really cool because we talk about Morris Sound a lot on here, and it's definitely Morris Sound. Basically just Morris Sound stories from all the bands and stuff, I believe. So we got that going on. I'm trying to think of anything else before John gets here, because he'll be on in a couple minutes here. What else did I see? Bruce Dickinson was going to star in a horror movie. Did you see that, called Bjorn of the Dead?
Yes, I did.
I guess it was written by Bruce's son, Austin Dixon. It's based on an original story by, I'm going to fuck up this name, but Andrew Prendergast. He's producing the movie with Austin, and it centers around ABBA tribute band and the apocalypse. So
that'll be cool. I think it'll be kind of cool. I mean, who knows? He
did something. 2008? He co-wrote a low budget horror movie called Chemical Wedding. That was Bruce. And I did see. Did you know that Aliens? I didn't know they were doing a series. It's going to be on FX, I guess, next year. I guess 2015 they're going to do.
Yep.
Noah Hawley is doing that, so it's going to be on FX, I guess.
Yep.
I think they're filming in Thailand right now.
And it actually looks, from what I've seen, looks pretty solid. I mean, I liked, I mean, obviously the original Alien movies were great, but I liked the Prometheus and those movies, that were supposed to be prequels to how the aliens came about. So, hopefully they do it justice, man, because real quick when they do stuff, sometimes it can, you
never know how it's,
because I've been watching War of the Worlds, but it's on a TV thing. It's a series on, I don't know if it's FX or AMC. It's one of those. So I was like, but it's set, instead of the United States, it's set over in Europe at the same time as they were here, but they're different because they got different type of aliens, these fucking robots that fucking send a spike into your skull when they get you, and they look like dogs, but it's fucking really well done. And I was like, oh man,
I used to love V, man, when I was a kid. Like,
V was good too.
Robert Englund was in that, and they had
the
lizard
school
people. Yeah, like that was that's definitely old school. That ran on regular TV back. I don't even know what year that was. Definitely early '80s.
We can't have too much brutality, or Hollywood will fucking.
Yeah, I saw that. Terrifier 3, October 25th, 2024. And as you're saying, Hollywood, I guess it's going to be what Damien Leone said, that he's basically going to do it himself again, right? Because the Hollywood studios aren't going to. It's too violent.
They said it was too fucking. The opening scene was too fucking violent. I mean, come on, man. I mean, where have we been? I don't know. I
saw Damien say that's not even the most violent scene in the movie. Like, it's not the major kill scene. So that's, who knows?
Dude, after the original Terrifier with the fucking,
saw, and then
man. I mean, come on, man. Seriously,
I mean, scene, too. I mean, where can they go?
How much? You know what I mean? I mean, there's only gore is gore, right? I mean, if it's gore, it's gore. I mean, unless you're, I don't know. I think it's silly, but that's probably Hollywood saying that we're protecting our own asses so we don't get, backlash. Fuck them.
And not only that, but if you're Damien and anybody that's working on that movie, what a better publicity wave to go into part 3, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? Think of it like this. So now, instead of having somebody else flip the bill and make any money off of it, now he gets to reap the benefits even more. So, because with the, after Terrifier 2, more people now know what it is. It's going to, because you saw how well it did in the theaters, now it's going to triple that, or even go past that, because you know what I mean? So Hollywood did itself no justice by doing that, but who gives a shit? Fuck Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck Hollywood. I agree. Joining us now is the vocalist, bassist, a guy who basically, if there was a Mount Rushmore of the new wave of British heavy metal, his face would be on there. Please welcome to the Tampa Morgue, Mr. John Gallagher.
Welcome, gentlemen. Good to be here.
You too, man. We're very happy to have you on. We've been waiting for this for a while. So, and we were talking a little bit earlier. So you're in Florida right now. So you split your time between to
Yeah,
Europe and
between
Florida.
Florida and the home country back in Newcastle. Yeah.
So have you gotten when
I'm,
did you when was your
I'm
first?
trying to figure out what I'm actually doing. I've been spending the last 4 hours screwing around with flights because either I'm going over there or my girlfriend's coming over here. So we'll figure it out one way or the other.
So your girlfriend's been over there. So when did you first get your first palmetto bug? Did you get the palmetto bugs over there? Those gigantic cockroach Floridian. What I don't know
I
what the
haven't
hell.
really run into too many of them. I remember up in Virginia, they used to get these weird crickets that were about like 5 inches long. And man, those things would
Loud.
scare the crap out of you.
Yeah. And loud.
You'd have
They are loud,
visitors
yeah.
over, and they'd be like, I'm going to the restroom that's sit in the toilet there, and you'd hear, what the fuck is this? Some
Exactly.
crazy freaking, I don't know, creature feature coming out.
I'd say Florida, you get a lot of those. But so you were born in, and excuse me if I pronounce this wrong, Uppentine, Newcastle.
Where?
Uppentine, Newcastle. Is that
There's no
correct?
such place. I'm born in Newcastle upon Tyne.
Uppentine. Okay, I knew I was going
Time.
to pronounce that
Ah,
wrong.
okay. There you
Yeah,
go.
I knew I was going to fuck that up.
No
And when
problem.
you, what is that more like? That's like a blue collar. I'm sure football's huge there. Like your version of football.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we grew up, blue collar mining, steel, manufacturing. You know, I laugh like when my kids went to school over here. There'd be like some kid with no shoes, and then some kid with a Porsche. But there was none of that when we were kids.
Right.
Everyone was broke. Everyone was on the exact same economic level. So there'd be like one guy in the school who was like a bit worse off than everyone else, and that was it. So it was definitely a level playing field as far as that's concerned. But yeah, it was. Excuse this, they're having some kind of air show doing the road here, so
Nice.
we're getting strafed. It sounds more like freaking Gaza.
Exactly. Yeah. So then, as kids, so you and Mark, obviously your brother, you guys musically, you guys were watching shows like what Top of the Pops,
Yeah,
which was like basically the British movie chart television program created by BBC,
yeah, it's
BBC
pretty
Radio
much like
One.
like American Bandstand or one of those shows they had over here. So it's, they'd have the top 20. They'd list who was in the top 20. They'd have bands on, and of course they were all miming. And as it got later on into the late 70s and 80s, you'd start seeing basically video clips. This is all pre MTV, of course, but you'd see stuff. But so our real introduction in music was pretty much that and Radio One, and we didn't know nothing, but you'd hear, and you'd like what you like. So I remember as a kid. I mean, my oldest memory is me and Mark sitting, banging pots and pans to the Beatles.
Wow.
And there's a photograph my brother found that he put up recently of me and him sitting next to me mother, and I look like I'm playing the guitar, playing a hairbrush. And I'm probably about 3 or something. It's hilarious. But I remember seeing Hendrix on TV. Remember seeing The Who doing Pictures of Lily. So this was all 67, 68. And you'd hear the radio, and I remember famously being on holiday. All Right Now by Free was the number one for forever. You'd hear the Green Man Alishi, uh, Black Knight by Deep Purple, Paranoid. You'd hear all this stuff, and it was all it would soak in, as it were. And we went on holiday to Spain in like 71, maybe 72, and it was all inclusive. So if you've ever heard the Monty Python sketch about being downstairs at 5:30, otherwise you're going to miss your Campbell's cream of tomato soup, the first item of international cuisine. That crap. So you turn up for your meal, and at the end, a band came on. There was entertainment in the hotel, and this guy was playing a Strat, and he had the coiled cord and the wah-wah pedal, and playing with his teeth and behind his back, and we were just enthralled. You know, it was just like, ah. So that was the disconnect, actually seeing somebody playing live to hearing the music on the radio or seeing it on the TV, and we were hooked. You know.
And you guys picked up a guitar, right? A classic guitar on that trip.
Yeah, Mark got a classical guitar, and poor thing has got worn out over the years. Literally fell to pieces. We just take turns, and on top of all this, we went to our first real show, which was in 1973. We saw Slade, and the opening band we'd never heard of. They came on, and they were life changing. That was the sensational Alex Harvey band. So he
Scottish
comes
band,
on,
right?
and
Wow.
what's that?
They were Scottish, right?
Yes, very much so. Aye, Sonny, they were Scottish, big time. And Alex was very confrontational. You'd never call him a great singer, but he's one of the greatest frontmen you would ever see. And again, this was pre-punk, but they were all attitude, big time. So he comes out, and this is a hall with maybe 2,200 teeny boppers basically come to see Slade. Slade were at their absolute peak. A song had just went in at number one on the top of the charts. So we're like, who are these guys? We want to see Slade. Nobody cares about the opening band. Well, within about 5 minutes, he changed all that. And it was a masterclass in how to play to an audience who may necessarily want nothing to do with you. Reel them in, pull them into your world, and make it happen. And they were fantastic. And then, of course, Slade were fantastic as well. So, the die was cast after that. That was it. This is what we want to do. We want to do that.
Yeah, Alex Harvey, he passed away pretty young, I think, in his 40s in like the 80s. He because he had Chris Glenn in the band too, who played with the Ian
Chris
Gillan
Glenn,
band, correct?
Ed McKenna, his brother, Hugh McKenna, and Zal Clemenson. And, if you guys out there haven't heard it, try and find the Alex Harvey live album. It's amazing. It's fantastic. It's so good.
Yeah, and you're actually a live album guy, right? I think I've read that's one of your favorite things are live albums.
Totally. I mean, if you take any halfway decent band, and I mean, it's the fact that if you write the songs, you rehearse the songs, you record the songs, but then when you take them on the road, I mean, that's just a snapshot. It still develops, and it's organic. It grows, and you'll hear. I mean, name a live album. Made in Japan, Yes Songs, even Peter Frampton, Cheap Trick. The songs are just so much better arrangements. There's always little parts put in. Strangers of the Night, UFO,
Yeah,
Thin Lizzy,
one of the
Live
best
and
live
Dangerous.
albums.
They're all better. I mean, there's purists that go, oh, well, I like the studio recording because it's clean. That's exactly why I don't. I want the danger. I want the, are they going to screw up? And especially back then, it wasn't a case of like, we're going to go out and we're going to reproduce our studio album. I'm going to play the solos exactly like they've been heard. Because what is the point of that? Go listen to the record. You're trying to bring like lightning in a bottle, a moment in time. This is what is, fundamentally magic about music in general, but especially live music. You go to a hall and there's nothing. There's just a bunch of equipment. There's nothing. Then the guys come on, plug in, and they start playing, and they create magic out of thin air. And it's instantaneously, it just affects you. It's emotional. Whether it's, sad, pretty, aggressive, it hits you. And it gets straight to the core of your being, And if you hear music in that way, it changes your life, and you're forever changed for the better. Mm.
Yeah. And so 72, well, so 72, you guys were, you had the guitar, but you were already tuning it to a bass, weren't you? To like learn the bass lines and stuff.
Yeah, I'd hear it, and I had enough, smarts to go, well, obviously the bass is lower than this, so I'd be trying to tune it down. It would be a nightmare. So by 74, Mark comes up to me with Paul Bowden, the kid from down the street, and we're going to form a band, and you're going to be the bass player. Okay, let's go. What do we do now? So we'd sit around and plan world domination, not having a clue, because the only person we knew that peripherally had anything to do with music was Paul's sister, who fooled around and played the drums. So we'd borrow her drums, and we'd get this kid from the next street over, Paul Sheriff, and he couldn't play either, but he'd sit there and bang on them. And that was basically the lineup for our first show, which ended up being in 75, Christmas at our school. But for the 74, the Christmas of 74, we bothered mum and dad, and we got cheap electrics, and they were smart enough to say, this is the rabbit hole of all time, you're on your own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to the store, we're not buying you Fenders and Gibsons and no, that ain't happening. If take it, if you want to run with it, God bless you, go for it.
So your parents were
So
supportive?
they were very supportive. They just, nobody had any money, so it was a case of we'd go out in the back lanes and the back streets and see, like, basically go dumpster diving. You'd see like a radiogram. Do you remember a radiogram? It was like a piece of furniture with
Yep.
an old wood, and you'd open the lid, there'd be the record player and the radio. Well, it was a tube amp. So if you got it apart and took the wires off where the needle was, and hooked a jack plug on it, you could plug it in your guitar and play through the amp. So we actually had a couple of those that we'd fool around with. And then we had a cousin that lived down the street, a guy who had an electronics store. So he'd give us hints and help us and tell us how to wire. We got some speakers, made some speaker cases, speaker cabinets. And, we just figured it out the hard way. And we'd go out and whatever, wash cars, cut lawns, do whatever to make money and save up and, try and buy better equipment.
And the name Raven, did you guys, I know you guys made a list. So I'd done some research and I saw that you guys made a list of names, and Raven was pretty much the one that made the most sense to you guys. Do you remember any of the other names that were on that list?
Oh, no, but they were awful. They had to be absolutely dreadful. So there's lots and lots of names. And that came out as like the one everyone hated the least. And it was just, well, this is not like, even then, it's not like, call your band Kill Your Mother or, Satan's Asshole or whatever. It doesn't pigeonhole you. Raven, It's got lots of connotations, but not one specifically, So, I mean, that's been good.
It's
Definitely.
not genre defining.
And was the logo, who did the logo for you guys? And was the first time the logo was used, was it on the Hard Ride single from 81?
Well, we didn't have one. I mean, it was basically just written in Gothic for years until we got the record deal. Then it was just like, well, we need a logo. So I made the logo up. I drew the logo.
Okay. And you guys were doing what? Originals and covers. You guys were doing Queen, AC/DC, Deep Purple, Blue Oyster Cult. Do you remember what the first Raven original was?
I think it's on the box set of Rock Until You Drop. There's an old demo from like 78 or something. And one of those songs now, I think it's called Hitting the Road. Either Hitting the Road or Turn It Down. Both of them are on there. And that would be the type of thing. And it's, definitely early days, but you can hear the the heavy, you can hear the rock and roll, you can hear it, starting to percolate. So we'd do that, and we'd play. I mean, the first show we did at school, our school had an octagon-shaped protuberance sticking out from the front, 2 levels, and there was a drama theatre up top and all the music classes at the bottom. And the drama theatre probably held, I don't know, maybe 200 people or something. And that was where we played the gig. And before we went on, I fell down the stairs at the back all the way down to the bottom. Nearly killed myself. And then when we went on, when the lights went down, Paul walked off the stage. Because the stage was octagon shaped, and if you're at the wrong side, you were. So it was a disaster from the get go. And even at that one, at the end, we just threw all our stuff around. The teachers didn't know what the hell to do because, of course, it was all chaperoned. It was pretty funny. But we did that the year following. And then following that, we got a guy in who was he was called Dave something. I can't remember. He was an older guy. He played like Ian Pace. He was very good. Made us sound really good. We only played one show. We rented a church hall. And then we ended up with a guy called Mike Kenworthy, who's still a good friend. Again, slightly older guy. He was a student at Newcastle University. And he had connections. He got us playing in the pubs and then eventually into the working men's club circuit.
And they were tough gigs, right? Those pubs, like that was some pretty tough gigs, from what I've heard.
Oh, I mean, it was definitely not for the faint of heart. I mean, we'd play some pubs where there'd be, a Tuesday night with about 15 people in there, and nobody gave a shit. I mean, it was just like, oh, and this was, character building. Hey, how you doing? You tell a joke, or you get them into it. You connect. You look at them. You don't just hide. And we do that, and piece by piece, we built a following. We especially when we got to play in these working men's clubs, which were all south of the river, and we'd always be billed as the boys from Newcastle, and all those people were near Sunderland, which is 10 miles away. It's so tribal. That's the football team. So it's boo. And, famously, they'd write down requests on beer mats and bring them to the stage. So it'd be like, oh, Highway Star. Oh, Smoke on the Water. Ah, fuck off. Oh, okay. Right.
And you guys were playing for punk crowds too, right? Because you guys did in '77. I think the first show with Kenworthy on drums, you guys had what you guys played with the Strangers and the Motors.
That was 76, one of the early ones with him. We played the Motors at the Mayfair. And it was hilarious. I mean, there was 2 big venues in Newcastle. The Mayfair Ballroom, which was like maybe 2,500 capacity, like an underground oval room with a stage on the long side, a balcony. And then Newcastle City Hall, which famously has had so many live albums recorded. And Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Pictures in Exhibition, Blue Oyster Cult, Some Enchanted Evening, lots of stuff like that. A great old, what they call these city halls of England. Great hall, really, really cool. And we were so lucky because we saw all those bands that played there. And it wasn't like being in the States where you go to an arena or a stadium and you need binoculars just to see if there's ants on stage, You'd be like bitching if you were 50 yards away. And we were so lucky. So anyway, there was those 2 venues, and we played the Mayfair with the Motors, and we had to bring our own PA in. They wouldn't let us.
Ask you about that. I read the Motors wouldn't let you use their PA,
which is insane. And that happened twice. That also happened with the Stranglers when the punk thing happened. And later on, either that year or 77, we played the University, Newcastle University, and we had to have our own PA with it. And we went down great with both shows.
Yeah, you guys did good
But
with the punk crowd, right? Because you guys had a lot of energy. That was the thing with you guys. I
well,
mean,
that's the thing we've always had. I mean, there was another punk band called the Angelic Upstarts who had a song called Little Towers, who was killed by the police apparently, and they'd bring out a pig's head and kick it around on stage. Wonderful performance art. Well, they cancelled a show, and we were playing a pub in Sunderland, the old 29, the real spit and sawdust, blood on the ground pub. It was rough. And all of a sudden, all these punks file in. We're like, oh shit. And they're standing, because there's no stage, they're standing like 18 inches away from your face. And all of a sudden, we see our lighting guy, this skinny guy, fly across the air because he'd told somebody to move. So they moved him. But, they got into the energy. So, I mean, we've always had all that energy, but we had ability to go with it. That made the difference.
yeah,
And then
definitely.
that
You
was
guys,
probably the seeds of the whole new wave of British heavy metal. Kids liking the energy, but going, but I like the music like, Deep Purple and Judas Priest and AC/DC. And, I don't like that. That's okay, but it's like fast food, in and
yeah,
out. You want something more substantial.
late '77, you guys parted ways with Kenworthy, and you got Sean Taylor in, who played with Satan, Pariah, Blitzkrieg, and
Yeah.
so you guys, then what? Basically, '79. I think you guys would turn into a three piece, and I know that for you guys, that was a big thing for your sound. That really defined when you guys became three. It gave you guys just opened up a window, right, to do so much different shit.
It was a revelation. It was scary. It's like, it goes a three piece. Oh, what's that going to be like? And as soon as we started playing, it was just like, oh, this is great. Because you can hear what everybody's doing. There's no murk. There's no safety net, you know? But, Mark blossomed as a guitar player literally overnight. It was amazing. We said, oh, wow, he's got all this room. And he'd do that, for want of a better word, the kind of Eddie Van Halen thing where he'd be playing and then just go off and just play fills and, make noises and crazy stuff. And, that's the fun stuff, not just going da, 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 all freaking night. So, and then, when it came to solos and that, me and Rob had to step up. I mean, that's also when we got Rob Hunter in the band there, because we were a four-piece, still with Sean. Paul had left. We got this guy in from school, Pete Shaw, and it didn't work out. And Rob had joined, and we just said, this isn't happening. So we gave Pete his marching orders, and then we knuckled down as a three-piece, and everything changed. We played a show in Newcastle, probably early 1980, January, February, at a little place in the big market called Bambra's. It was an old music hall.
Has
And
that place been around since like 18? That thing's been around
yes,
forever.
and it's been closed forever. They're actually fixing it up now, which is wonderful because it's a real piece of history. It was just really cool. It had kind of like a round stage, very, very small, but a fun room to play. So we played that. We played it once before, but we played that, and in the audience was Tom Noble, who was a school teacher who managed the Tigers of Pantang. And, we kept our ears and eyes open. We saw the Tigers had done a single, were smart enough to send it down to the rock music paper of the day, Sounds. So back then, there was like three papers, like newspapers that came out every week. Every week. There was Sounds, Melody Maker, and the New Musical Express. And there was things that came out every 2 weeks, like Disc and a bunch of others. It was crazy because, of course, way pre-internet, This is where people found out what was going on. So they'd sent that down. The guys reviewed it, loved it, and they were selling them hand over fist. So Tom comes to see us and says, love the show. How would you guys like to do a single with Neat Records? We're like, let me think about it. Yes, we'll do that.
Exactly.
So a week later, we loaded all our gear in, and this is all documented in this big piece that's in Sounds magazine, where Ian Ravendale was there, the writer, to watch it all. Loaded in, and we recorded a 3-song demo, just live, straight to tape, which, luckily we found, and it is on that box set of Rock Until You Drop. It's on there, and it's interesting because, it's Don't Need Your Money, I think Wiped Out, and Let It Rip, and they're all pretty much like they ended up being recorded, but the arrangements were a little longer in places, a little stranger. So we did that, and the boss of Neat, David Wood, said, "Yep, love it. Let's do a single."
Now, was that before you guys opened up for White Snake? Because you guys opened up
Yeah.
for White Snake, and
Well,
so
the
what happened?
single
So
was
Gary,
out first. Yeah, we
the
did
single was
the
out first.
single.
Okay.
So the single came out, and there was a very influential disc jockey on Radio 1 called John Peel. And his whole thing was, especially through the whole punk thing, we'd always listen because he'd play anything. And some of the music was so hilariously bad, and some of it was great, But it was just like, I got a new record, they sent me this, check it out, see what you think. And we'd play it. So he played Oz, and it happened to be Ozzy was listening. And Ozzy went, "Oh, that's fucking great. I want that band. Let's put that band on the tour." So we ended up doing 4 dates with Ozzy.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that actually, because you got
So
that was
there's
with
culture
Randy.
shock right there. You're playing Bambras, and then about 3 months later, you're playing with Ozzy all of a sudden,
And that was 80 also, right? So you
That
had
was 1980.
Wizard of Oz.
yes, that's what
Wizard of
Randy
Oz.
Yeah.
With
and I want to
Randy
ask
and
yeah.
Bob and Lee. Yeah.
And John, I have to ask you. There was a couple things about that show I wanted to. Well, about those 4 shows you guys played. First of all, how obviously, what's your memories of Randy from did you get to know him at all, or any kind of?
Yeah, he was friendly. He was quiet, but he was friendly. He just struck me as like the skinniest guy I'd ever met. And we were, I've seen more meat on a butcher's apron than what we've got. We were freaking skinny, but you could literally put your hand around his waist. I think he was that skinny. And yeah, I just taught him about his pedal board.
Did you see him mess up Iron Man? I
Oh,
read
yeah.
in the old yeah. Did you hear
Messed up
that?
Iron
Yeah.
Man, and they messed up Paranoid. They did Paranoid in Sunderland, and there was 3 endings. And Ozzy's looking around like, what the But that's the way it is. That's live, Everyone screws up. It's how you get out of it,
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
And obviously,
yeah.
and you were thinking, Randy can screw up. We're all good.
Anybody can
Yes,
screw
sir.
up. Yeah, because you guys, when you got 80, that would have been the Ready and Willing tour for White Snake. That was what Moody, Jon Lord. I mean, you guys
Jon
played
Lord
with
and Ian Pace.
yeah,
Fantastic.
Such a
Made
fucking
it-
history.
Yeah, we get the call. Gary Moore's pulled out. This is when Gary Moore had the G-Force album and band, and it went sour, and they cancelled. Literally right there and then said, "Do you want to fill in, play with Whitesnake 2 shows?" Yep, let's do that. So literally it was like, "Hey people, Gary Moore can't be here tonight. Here's Raven."
toss to the wolves, toss to the dogs.
Oh yeah, thrown to the wolves totally. But we did okay. We did good, and so we're in the dressing room going, "They're next door. It's the guys that were on Made in Japan." And then the door opened and they walked in, and they were so friendly and so nice, and it was inspirational and very educational too. Like, you're normal, you be friendly, you be nice to people. And Jon Lord, he's so tall. He's just like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not like Keith Emerson, who like knows everything inside out. I just twiddle a few knobs." Yeah, right, sure. And Ian Pace was going to Rob, "Oh, I'm tired. You go on and do my set tonight. Go on." And Rob's like, yeah, okay.
Humble.
So they were wonderful. Bernie Marsden showed us all his guitars. They're very friendly guys. Really.
I always tell people too with Whitesnake, you know, I love the old Whitesnake, like the, you know, you go back to some of the older albums like Love Hunter and Trouble. It was much different than what they were in the '80s. What you got from them, but
Yeah, well, I mean, that was obviously a lot more
bluesy,
glammy, a lot more
Hair metal.
of the time,
Yeah.
heavy metal, hair metal. Obviously, not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily. That was a great album, 1987. That's a great album.
Yeah, I saw Whitesnake with Europe actually, probably last year, and I mean, you know, I love Coverdale, you know, I mean, I love the old
Yeah,
Whitesnake
unfortunately,
records.
the voice is not what it was, but back then, the voice was something to behold. That's for sure.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I'd seen them, you know, standalone. I'd seen them, and I saw them at the Reading Festival like the year before, which was like they were amazing. They were fantastic. So it was a
you
big
also saw
deal.
Motorhead on that festival, right? The
And
Reading
then we played
Festival.
with Motorhead. We played 2 shows of Motorhead on Iron Fist. And photographs of that are the live photographs that are on Crash Bang Wallop. They're on there. And I got a few more. Last year doing the box set, the guy who took the photographs I got in touch with, and he sent me all the negatives. So that was really cool to have. And there's one photograph where you can see Lemmy lurking around in the background. But that was insane because they were literally at their peak. They played like Leeds Queen's Hall, which at the time was like 5,000. That was like unimaginable for England. You know, there was no 10,000 seat arenas outside of London. There was like the Wembley Pool. Nobody played stadiums other than the Who. The Who would play at some stadiums, you know, with basically like a festival with a big, you know, line of people. But that was a big show. And then they played a place just outside of Wales, Deeside Leisure Centre in Chester, which was an ice rink, I think. We did them too. But that was Iron Fist, and they had when they started the song, and there was nothing to look at, and then the entire stage came down from the ceiling.
Yeah, that's so old school.
And of
you
course,
played a
those
show with
three
Lemmy.
guys were so drunk they could barely stand up before they went on stage. It was like crazy.
So you
And
first saw
Eddie
them
had
79 in Reading. So 79 would be the first time you saw them, correct?
Motorhead, yeah. And they sounded dreadful at that festival. It sounded like a transistor radio. It's like, oh
my God.
okay.
And
Of
was there a
course, I'd
show that
heard, you hear the records then, you didn't see much. You go, oh, they must be like really crazy live. And of course, they're basically just trying to stand up because of the alcohol intake, you know?
And there was a show, right, where I think that did you play with Motorhead when someone threw a sharpened coin at Lemmy and he actually got blood poisoning from the coin?
That we didn't play with them, but that happened in the 90s. I think it was somewhere in like Romania or Bulgaria or something. And that's why Lemmy was got a little weird after that. I mean, he'd set up on stage with the monitors all the way back next to his gear, and he would just stand there with that. And that took a few years before he'd get over that. But back then, he wouldn't. When he was really friendly, the other times we met him, he wouldn't talk to anybody. He just sat in a trailer with the, with his little one-arm bandit thing. So
You guys played with Iron Maiden in '80 also.
that's right. July, I think they did a couple of shows. They might have recorded one of them. I don't think it was the one we did, because I think Fist, also from the northeast of England, played one of the shows, and we played another one, and that was cool. Especially when we get there and Steve's not there and Paul's not there, so it's just Dennis Stratton, Dave Murray, and Clive, and they get up and start playing Eagles covers. We're looking at, this is the great white hope of British heavy metal. I say, okay. As soon as Steve walked in, that stopped real quick.
And you guys, before I'm going to get to this, obviously Impulse Studios, but you guys also, so did you guys play for the Hells Angels? And you had to like find it, basically like they wanted you to play, what was it, Born to Be Wild, like over
Yeah,
and
that was
over
back
again?
when Mike was playing drums with us, and he was friendly with the Hells Angels and got us to play a show. Have you ever seen the Tommy movie, The Who?
Yes.
Yep.
At the end, as you see the Hells Angels, it's those guys,
Yeah.
those exact people.
Wow.
Really?
So it's a field about 10 miles outside of Newcastle, and they have a generator, and we bring our gear and we set up, and we start playing. It starts raining like bad. We have plastic sheets putting over the gear, and the rain's just getting harder. And play Born to Be Wild. Play it again. Play it again. All right. Play it again. And at this point, it's like, So Mark's playing. Mark just goes, lands on the ground. He goes, shit. Kicking the guitar away from him. Like, come on, play it. He goes, no, he's had an electric shock. We're done. Over. Finished. We pick him up and drag him back to the van. He starts laughing. He goes, let's get the fuck out of here now.
He faked the escape.
Yeah,
The fake
man.
escape. Indeed.
That's awesome.
You guys would enter Impulse Studios in Newcastle that was owned by David Wood, the founder of Neat Records. And this is, so, I mean, if you want to, I know that Neat Records, obviously I've heard the stories, not much wanting to give much money, huh? Not really.
No, it's hard to explain. There was a couple of characters. One of the characters, of course, is Benny Hill. Dave
Oh,
had an
yeah.
unfortunate resemblance to Benny Hill. And there was a character called Arthur Daly, who was like the cheapest man on the planet on TV as well back then. So he was like a cross between the two. You know, like you do things like, can you pick up a bottle of milk before you come in the studio? You know, we've got no milk here for the tea. And you give him the milk, and you look at him.
And you get nothing back.
Oh, how much was that? Whatever, 22 pence. 22 pence. A lot of money for milk these days, isn't it? Just give me the fucking money, will you? Cheapskate.
And that actually delayed the full length, right? The first one. There was actually a
We
delay
went,
because of that.
obviously, I mean, we'd done the single and a couple of associated tracks which ended up on compilations, which was Inquisitor and Let It Rip. And we'd started, they were in the pool for the album, and we eventually, feeded them out as we were still writing and doing stuff. And it would be like, you'd be in for a couple of days, and then, you can't come in next week, but the week after, you can come in for a couple of days, and we'd do that. And in between all this, we got approached from a guy who used to manage the Groundhogs, who were a famously psychedelic, crazy blues band from England, who'd had a lot of success. And he came up, destroyed Dave Wood with about 5 words, and it was all going to happen. He was going to take us away. We're going to do this. And then that all fell apart. Nothing happened. And the guy, whatever happened. And we just looked at each other and said, let's do the deal with the devil. Let's do this because, no matter how bad it is, it's a step forward. And we get a record out, a proper album. So we did that. And, the cover, of course, that was our rehearsal room in Newcastle, rearranged slightly.
And they sent you a wedding
We sent
photographer?
a photographer down who was a wedding photographer. So when this guy walked in the door, he went, hey. And then he got into it, and it was cool. And, we got what we needed, which was, it's a fun cover. It's good.
That was your old rehearsal space, you said, right, on that one?
Yeah, there's been a couple of guys doing the detective research, but it was underground. It's filled in. The building was torn down. They're building like a 30-story multi-skyscraper thing on top of its body at the moment. It's crazy. It all changes.
So 82, you guys put out Wiped Out on Neat Records again, and then David Wood refused to let you guys do the cover you guys wanted. Is that correct? You guys wanted to do like an Atom Bomb cover?
yeah, we wanted an atom bomb. And he said, can't do that. I goes, why not? He says, it's in bad taste. I goes, well, you're putting venom out. Come on. Nope, can't do that. They'd be refused by the distributors. Can't do that. And he locked me and Rob in a room, says, you got 2 hours to come up with a cover. So I came up with the crossed flashes. And I mean, we had a great, collage and all that for the back cover and all the rest of it. So, yeah, what are you going to do?
Did you guys
But
record a couple
the
tracks for
record was,
BBC?
we saw the reaction we'd got, because from the first album, we got to play Italy for the first time. We got to play Holland, and playing those places was a revelation, because, the Northern England and Scotland audiences are back then were pretty rambunctious, pretty crazy. And the further south you get, they'd be more like, oh, I really love what you're doing. I'm having such a good time. It's so marvelous. Don't even smile, please. But you get Holland and Italy, and these people were nuts. That they were the precursors to the stage divers and the moshers. They'd just be banging their heads and going really, really crazy. So that obviously addressed what we were going to do with the next album. We just kept pushing the energy and the speed thing, So let's do an album that's just up the ante, make it crazier. So we went in and did everything on Wiped Out and what ended up on the Crash Bang Wallop EP, recorded and mixed in 6 days.
6 days, wow.
And on the 7th day, God rest it.
Did you guys? Was that the same year you guys recorded songs for BBC? Right, a couple tracks. I had read.
Same year. That was
Same
earlier,
year.
and that was another revelation, going into a real studio with Tony Wilson from the BBC. That was a whole palaver, because Mark and Rob and our roadie Jon Lord had driven down to London to do some interviews with the BBC. They were going to come back, and then like 3 days later, we were going to drive down with the gear and do the recording session at Maida Vale Studios, I believe it was. And they got into a car accident and got really beat up. And the car was trashed, so they ended up staying with a friend of Dave Woods, I think. It might have been one of the guys that used to be in the Shadows. I don't know. But so it got me father, and he said, can you drive the truck down with the gear? He said, yeah, I'll come down. So we had fog through the length of England. So it's like a 400 mile drive in fog. So you're driving at like 20 mile an hour. It was like an 11-hour drive. So we drive all night. We get in there, we're fried. And you get to the street that looks like Beirut. And the door looks just trashed. And you ring on the door and it opens. And then it's it's all beautiful inside and studio. And it's completely hidden. It's like it's camouflaged. And the guys are there. And, my brother's got, his pants held together with stickers from a fanzine. It was Brian Slagle's fanzine, the new heavy metal review. He had all these stickers holding his pants together. When they hit the car out, when they got hit by the truck, it burst his pants. So it was great having my dad there watching us, and that was definitely like, oh, so you guys do know what you're doing, eh? So it was pretty cool. But it was like a real studio. We're like, oh shit, we got to go to Neat to do the next album.
Because what was neat, that was like,
but that's it. That'll be the last.
Nice.
Which technically it wasn't, because we did demos for All for One there, but that was the end of it.
You guys would also play the United States in '82, right? You played Staten Island with Anvil and Riot, and you played a few other shows with Anvil.
Yep.
What was your impression of the States the first time you went there? Because I mean, not being from there, I'm sure it was kind of
it was amazing, because it's everything you've seen on TV. Your eyes were like saucers. I mean, from the One thing's never changed usually, although actually it has. Customs are usually a little nicer these days. They were freaking awful then. And you'd get out and it's, just the vista of JFK with the sun going down, the red sky. It was like everything was technicolor, from being where we were. It really was. And we stayed in Jersey. We were staying at John Z's house. And John Z's like, these guys are hungry. He gets this kid. Can you take them down to Burger King in the car? Kid's like 15. He's got the car. Kid is Jim Florentine, the comedian.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Fucking awesome. Yeah, that's his good Raven story. Yeah, he drove us to Burger King.
Now, Jonny Z, so me and Ed are both from Jersey originally. We're both Jersey guys. And obviously we all know who Jonny Z is and stuff. What was your first impression of Jonny Z when you met him?
Oh, he's just mad as a loon. Cracked. He was like Rasputin, the mad monk. But, he just had such passion about him. And, say, I've got the biggest import store on the Eastern Seaboard and all this. And then you go there and it's in a flea market.
Flea market, yeah.
Right.
So it was true, but it was misleading at the same time. And
right.
I was telling Ed before you came on, John, that like I had gotten, before Jonny passed away, about 2 or 3 months, he sent me his book, which he writes in it, which I noticed he writes "Stay Hard, Jonny Z," and I know he was a big Raven fan, and so I'm sure that I put 2 and 2 together, right? Because he was a huge Raven fan.
Yeah. When we stayed in touch, there was a period of maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 years where we never talked. And then we met him at the Foundations Forum in 94 when we played out in California. And we'd been in touch ever since from then. And I'd always run stuff by him and he'd always just call up, "Hey, Gallagher, what's going on? What you guys up to? Can I help? Can I do this?" Da, 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 da. And you always go, "You're my second favorite band." So, yeah, who's the first? Because I don't have a first.
And he got you guys off of, right? Because in '83 you guys did the All for One record, and so that was it, right? For you guys were done with Neat. He got you away from them.
Yeah, obviously he'd licensed All for One when we did, that tour in '83, and we negotiated the exit by, letting them have the live album for the UK and what have you, and got us the deal with Atlantic.
And you guys, and also was on the, what was it? You guys would do mix that was actually the first record All for One that you worked with Michael Wagner, if I'm correct.
Yeah. That was the whole standoff in the UK. Like, we're not doing the new record at Impulse Studios, Neat Studios. We're not doing it. What do you mean? Not doing it. It sucks. The guy you've got here, forget it. It's not happening. We want a real producer. We want a real studio. Went backwards and forwards, and he went, "All right, what do you want?" I'm going, "Well, we love this record, Breaker by Accept." Who's the guy? It turned out the producer hadn't done anything on that. It was all Michael Wagner. We want Michael Wagner. Oh, Michael's now working in a production partnership with Udo Dirkschneider from Accept, who may or may not be leaving the band, but who knows? And they just put out Restless and Wild not long before that. And obviously we loved Restless and Wild as well. And it was just like, okay, bring them on. So Michael and Udo came up to Newcastle. We did pre-production, which was a new thing, real pre-production for like a week, 10 days. And then drove down to London to a studio on the outskirts of London in Southall called Pineapple Studios, and just had a crazy 15, 16 days working ridiculous hours and laughing like we'd never laughed before.
And Udo performs on that record too, on a couple tracks.
Yeah, he's on because we say, we got to do a duet. Let's do Born to Be Wild, which was our, swan song from back in the day, of course. And I was like, let's do that. So we did that. And also, let's do Inquisitor, and we'll do half and half. And he was doing the half with all the S's and F's and all this. And Michael said, "You got to switch it around. He can't pronounce those sounds. He's not going to be able to do it." Because back then, Udo could barely speak English. He speaks pretty well now, but back then he couldn't, you know. But my favourite memory of Udo from then, there's two. One is we were playing the song The Ballad of Marshall Stack. And we looked into the control room, we all fell about and couldn't play. We were laughing because they had pieces of 2-inch tape with fake feathers sticking out, and they were going, "Hey ho, are ya? Hey ho, are ya?" Doing the Indian war dance around. This hilarious. And then when he was doing the vocals, he had a bottle of Corvasia written cognac that he just about downed. And after he did the vocal, he's sitting on the floor. "I wake up in the morning and the sun begins to shine." You know, singing "Entranced" by the Scorpions.
I saw them and Vilnius actually last year. Man, Udo still sounds great. You know, he's actually coming back here again. Yeah, he still sounds great. Was the first show you guys did for Johnny Z, was that the Halloween Headbangers Ball?
That was the first show. Yeah, that, and there was 4 or 5 New York and Jersey shows right after it. So it was like, let's come back the next year. Let's do a headlining tour, right? Okay, great. So I've got
you heard
great opener
No Life
for
Till
you.
Leather?
What's that?
Had you heard No Life Till Leather?
No Life Till Leather thing. It's like, got this great opening band for you. Biggest band in San Francisco. Like, nah. There's like a laundry list of the biggest band from San Francisco. You know, Journey, Sammy Hagar, Y&T, what? No, Metallica. Who? Metallica. I'll send you the tape. So we get No Life Till Leather. I put it in. I'm like, is this at the right speed? It sounded like Motorhead on a record player at 78, you know? It's like, all right, these are the guys. This will be great. Boom. So we come over. We have a meeting at Johnny Z's. They're in the house, trashing the house, drinking all the drinks, knocking things over, out of control. The only guy that seemed to have a head on his shoulders was Cliff. He was like an old soul on young shoulders. And it's like, here we go. And we went off for whatever it was, 30, 40 dates. A Winnebago that would hold 6 people, 2 trucks, and 17 people on the tour.
Wow.
So after 3 days, we had our tour manager up against the wall with my hands around his throat saying, "Hotel or we go home."
I had actually seen an interview with you and Johnny. I don't know if it was from probably 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and he said the one regret he had actually was the Winnebago.
It was what?
The Winnebago, he said, was the big issue on the tour.
Oh yeah. Well, they had, you know, if you've ever been in one of them, they have like it's a table that converts into a bed.
Yep.
And the shit's all made out of particle board, right? So they're playing music and jumping around and slam dancing straight on the table. Boom.
Boom.
So there's 2 beds, 2 people's beds gone instantly. No one's fixing that. Cliff tears the door off the toilet. And someone had took a shit in there. So the smell was pervasive and it wasn't going away. We're like, let's pick up a couple of mattresses. Let's just travel in the back of the truck. It'll be way nicer. So for the real long drives, we did. A lot of the time, we'd be in the back of the truck squashing mosquitoes, you know, so we didn't get bitten. Lovely.
I think what's interesting, so with Metallica, you guys were definitely an influence. Like when they toured with you, I had read that they had like sponged a lot of information from you guys, but like just kind of like, you know, and I know that they did kind of change as a band a little bit eventually from the first record to the second record. How much of influence do you think you guys had on them from that tour?
I think musically a little bit, because they, you know, the difference for them between the first and second album, when you look at it, is huge. It's huge. And they told us, we love what you did with All for One, where you kind of stepped back, slowed things up a bit, made some things more powerful, but you didn't lose sense of who you were. And we would love to do that. Well, that's cool. And I mean, we had a long conversation with James last year, which is a bone of contention because someone has it on video and it's not releasing it at the minute. But and he'd said, like, every night we'd come out and sit there and watch, and we'd go, how do we get from here to there? Which was a wonderful compliment, you know.
Because you guys were actually selling more records than Metallica at that time, you know, in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely. But, you know, they took stock of what they were doing. And obviously, you know, they'd had the lineup change and they just started writing a little differently. And I think that's why the second album was the template for what they did for like the next three, really, you know, pretty much. Until they changed again. But it was a big gang. We had a great time with those guys, absolutely, you know.
And being so, you guys were, you know, everyone being younger, everybody at that time period when everyone lost Cliff, pretty much. Oh, did that hit you guys pretty hard? Because you had spent time with him.
Yeah, that was the first time, you know, since me granny died when we were about 8 or 9. The first time anyone I'd known had passed away, and it was shocking, and it was really weird because, you know, we could only get in touch with those guys like third, fourth party. It wasn't like I had phone numbers or there wasn't the internet or any of that shit, and it was just like a void. It was. And I mean, you know, compared to most, we didn't know them that well. But when you're on the road with somebody, even if it's like 6 or 7 weeks, it's like being at war, you know, you're with them 24/7 all the way through, you know. So you either get on or you don't. And we got on great with Cliff, you know. So it was a great shock. We were in Chicago playing with Yngwie Malmsteen and laughing at Yngwie's antics, trying to strangle his guitar tech and ordering everyone around.
Kill the singer.
And then we get the message that Cliff had died right before we went on. So when I did my bass solo, I played Anesthesia and just went, this is for Cliff. Nobody knew what the fuck I was talking about because nobody knew it had happened. But our regular tour manager was out tour managing Anthrax, and that's how we found out very quickly.
Speaking of Anthrax, I mean, that's one thing about you know, with Megaforce, you guys had such solid bands on that label just had just quality. I mean, all the bands were quality, and you actually took, just like when you had Metallica open up for you guys on that tour in '84, you guys also took out Anthrax for their first tour.
Sure. I mean, you know, you want the best bands you can to come out with you to make a show. You want the full night. We only ran into the old school thing on that first show at the Halloween Headbangers Ball when, you know, Riot were doing gamesmanship, taking 6-hour sound checks. And then when we played, they started taking the stage box and, oh, let's put the microphone cord in where the bass drum is and the bass drum in where the guitar is and the guitar, sabotage, you know, the old school bullshit, you know. It's just like, no. Let them shine. Don't care who's on. Give them, you know, good lights, good sound. Let them shine. That inspires us to do better. That gives them the fair shake. If, you know, they've got all the opportunity in the world, do something with it. Make a great night. And that's always been our attitude with that, you know.
That was Anthrax.
Someone wants to be sabotaged, they can do it all very well by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. You know, and that Anthrax tour, you had Neil on vocals. That was before, which is kind of funny because with Joey, Mark picked up Joey for his actual first rehearsal with Anthrax. Is that correct?
That's right.
So he picked him up from the airport, which is insane.
Syracuse Airport. Yeah, took him down to Ithaca. Yeah.
And with Neil, do you remember how because I you know, obviously Neil didn't last, and there was obviously a lot of friction in that band. Do you remember any of that friction during that tour?
Oh, constantly. They'd be arguing about, I mean, they had a bus which was basically, those airport buses you see, they're like quite large and sleek looking. They had basically one of them, which was like 2 long bunk seats, pretty much the full length. And he'd be like, "Don't sit there, man." "What do you mean? Don't sit? I'm going to put my suitcase there." Because Neil had chain mail, like King Arthur and the frickin' knights, and he'd made it himself, link by link. He'd made the chain mail.
Wow.
Freaking nuts. And it weighed like 70 pounds or some shit. And he had it in a suitcase, and no, it's got to go. Put it on the floor. I want to like, no. So they just argue about anything. We get into Canada, and he had all these vitamins individually wrapped in aluminum foil. So what do you think customs did when they saw that?
Especially Canada customs.
Come on, boys, out we come. And all the suitcases, everything laid out on the table. Here's one dirty sock, here's another dirty sock, here's dirty underwear. 4 hours. So, and I do remember Neil coming up one night going, hey man, I know, you've got a bit of a cold, you got a bit of a sore throat, right? Going, yeah, I'm fighting my way through it, but you still sound good. How do you do it, man? I'm I'm not feeling good. I says, well, you got to pick your battles. There may be a few notes you don't sing either the same note or as powerfully as you normally would. You'll dance around and try and make it work. Yeah, man, okay. So they go out. What's their first song? Death Rider. First note. And boom, gone.
Done.
No voice. Hilarious.
I've learned that one the hard way.
Yes,
not good. But they were tight, they looked good, they went out, they did their thing, and it was great, definitely.
So 84, you also started using the head mic, what that was. So basically you first got that idea from Kate Bush, the English songwriter?
Yeah. She only did one tour, and it was incredibly influential. She was doing that whole, all the crap you'll see Taylor Swift and you saw Madonna and Beyonce. She was doing that shit in 1979 with dancers and all this. And she was dancing. She was a classically trained dancer. And how am I going to sing and dance? So guy got a coat hanger basically and made a headset mic for her. And saw that and go, that's fantastic. Imagine what fun that would be instead of standing there, having people hit the mic stand, having the mic hit me teeth, getting electric shocks and being able to move around. But nobody makes those. And then, was it a few years later, see Sammy Hagar on MTV, the concert he did. Look at what he's got. That's it. That's got to be cool. So we did some research. Yeah, there's the microphones. And then we got some money together and got it sorted out in 84 and went through holy hell for about 6 months trying to make it work. Because every night
right?
We would cut out 30 minutes into the set. And my roadie Ian casually mentioned, yeah, like when I pull the sweat out of the transmitter pack, I'm like, what? Yeah, that could make it cut out. So we got it working.
And that's where you guys came up with that name.
It just made a huge difference because, it lets me connect, communicate better, get around. It's more fun. And you can be more comfortable singing. You might want to look up or look down or move around or run, whatever. And you can do it, And I've got the kind of voice where I'm not, it's pretty much 110 dB all the time, so it's okay.
You guys, so then you guys were also in a movie too. You guys did the soundtrack for the Hot Moves in '84. Then you guys would go. So then you guys moved up to Colton, New York, right? You left Jersey and moved to New York City for the next record.
When we did Stay Hard, we were at Pyramid Studios and we were staying 10-15 mile up the road in Cortland, at what was known as Rock and Roll Hotel. These two sisters had this huge house, and they'd rent it out to bands who were, in and out. I mean, Metallica had been there. Exciter were there for a while. We were there the longest, I think, because we were there years as opposed to months. And it was cheap. So, when we weren't touring or weren't in the studio, we'd be living up there.
You guys would also play there, which was the show that everybody got signed at, right? Because Metallica got signed by Elektra, Anthrax got signed by Island, and you guys by Atlanta. So that was the Roseland Ballroom.
Yeah.
And what do you remember
84.
about what was like? Obviously, everyone, a lot of band guys, you hear major labels, especially back then. It's a very exciting thing, right? You think, hey, major, that's really gonna set the band up.
I mean, and we're like, we're being courted by Atlantic. That's, as a kid, I'm looking at AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. Bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unfortunately. But, this had been dragging on for a while, that, they're interested, blah, blah, blah. We get to do this show. It's the biggest show we've ever done, and it's being mentioned to us every 5 minutes. So we're all on edge. And of course, all our significant others come over from England and tell us they're breaking up with us on that same day.
God.
Wonderful, right? So we're dealing with that. We get ready to go on, and Mark's guitars got stolen. And I just fucking freaked. I walked over to the door of the room and ripped the door off its hinges. And Scott Ian's looking at me like, oh shit. Just, I didn't get mad, but when I get mad, I get really mad. And they caught the guy just as he was getting to the door. And that was Mark's old Telecaster, the one on the front of Don't Need Your Money, which, he still has now, but they brought it back. And I'm like, okay. So we went on to Kill, and it was a really, really great show for us, because there was all that pent up, aggression and what have you with it. But yeah, all of us got signed from that. And there's one hilarious story which I don't believe, but it does sound good. Michael Alago, who famously signed Metallica, brought Bob Krasnow, who was the chairman of Elektra, to the show. Is the story. And Krasnow was drunk, and he saw us, and he thought, fantastic, sign them. So the days and weeks go on, and Metallica are brought to Elektra, and Krasnow looks at him and goes, I thought there was only 3 of you. It's a good story.
That's awesome. And you guys were signed by a disco rep, right? Because the rock rep was actually in rehab. Is that true too?
This is true. That was Larry Yazgo, was the disco guy who signed us, because Jason Flum, who's a very well-respected A&R impresario who was eventually signed. I mean, they hated him because he signed Twisted Sister. If you've seen the Twisted Sister, they wanted to kill Jason because he loved Twisted Sister. And when he came back, all we ever heard was Twisted Sister, Twisted Sister. It's like, whatever. But he went on to sign Matchbox 20, Katy Perry, 30 Seconds to Mars, whoever, all this stuff. So that guy wasn't in the picture. And we actually didn't even meet him until doing the Packers Back, I think. So they signed us, and it was all, like Spinal Tap, Publicist, Bobby Fleckman, or whatever she was called. It was all people like that. Like, they could have been working in a supermarket, or selling baked beans, or selling paper, or whatever it was. It didn't matter. And everyone was vacuous, and it's so good to meet you. And they'd have 2 or 3 people who knew what they were doing. So we'd go in there, and they'd have these press blitzes where we'd come in at like 10 o'clock in the morning and be there till 6 at night. All right, you've got like 30 interviews. It would just be boom, 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 boom. And you do things like a hit parader, and you do an interview, and they'd have all these photographs, and you'd read it like a month or two later and go, I never said that.
Yeah.
And it'd all be like incredibly complimentary, but completely fictitious.
Embellished.
What is this? So it was a strange world for sure, you know. And it was always, oh, we're getting lunch. What do you want for lunch? Oh, yeah. It was all getting billed to us.
Picking up the
You know,
tab,
it's like,
yeah.
come on.
Well, with
And then
Atlantic,
you got to have an accountant. You know, you got all this money flowing around. You need an accountant. You got an accountant. You find out the accountant, everything the accountant's doing is bumped up. Everything. Oh, yeah, and then your lawyer. Oh, yeah. Well, the lawyer normally charges this, but for you guys, double. And
God damn.
you know, because you're not seeing the paperwork; it's being done 2 and 3 steps back. So everything's being taken care of, but you're not making any money, and other people are.
Right. Typical.
You know, the concept of getting paid to do a tour, well, it's promotion for the record, right? And of course, this happened to everyone and had for years before and for years afterwards. You know, we didn't turn around and take the reins of that until 80, maybe 89, 90, when we just said, enough.
Yeah, you guys just went independent right after that, just independent labels.
Yeah, and it's like the amount of money coming in goes like this, but the amount of money you're getting out of that is like nearly all of it.
Yep.
So before you were getting this, so you know, it works out.
And with Atlantic, how much pressure was there to be commercial? Like they were really pushing, like, because I heard, is it true that Gene Simmons offered to help for like what $100,000
Well, we were looking
or
for a
some shit?
producer. We were looking for a producer for the Pack is Back. So one of the names that came up was Gene Simmons. So Johnny talked to Gene and he taped the conversation. He said, oh, well, I've listened to the tape, and it's obvious like these guys couldn't write a song if their lives depended on it. But luckily, you've got me. I've got lots of songs. I could do this, and for $100,000 down, you can have the whole Gene Simmons. It was like, oh, ridiculous. And we're like, seriously? I don't think so. So we went with Eddie Kramer, and Eddie Kramer made his name on making, you know, bands sound alive and great in studio. And so he ended up basically doing this pseudo Def Leppard production with a band who should have been doing the live in the studio thing, doing a pseudo Def Leppard production in a sense, you know. It was very much of the time. And, you know, there's 2 aspects really in music without its, well, 3 really. There's integrity, creativity, and craft. And on that record, there's an awful lot of craft. So it's really well done. It's really well played. It's well put together, and it sounds fantastic. But where's the cojones? And where's the get up and go? And a lot of that was sucked out because Rob was like, oh, I want to play it with click track.
That's the only album you guys did that with, right? That was the only one that has a click track
Until
on the Raven
recently.
record.
Until recently, yeah, that's right. And it was, so anything slow, like, you know, The Pack is Back or Rock Dogs, sounds great. Anything fast, because Rob, like a lot of English drummers, tends to play in the pocket, to play back a bit. So when you play it with click track, you're playing back. And the whole sound, especially then, was the push and pull between the guitar, with Mark pushing the beat and Rob holding the beat back. So it'd be this, and that's a magical thing. And you take that away. And that's one of the things. But there was a lot of pressure, not so much on us, because, you know, we were all, oh yeah, let's do this. This is, you know, doing things different, doing it forward. It was very much what we were listening to. And the record company, you know, wanted a hit. They liked On and On, but they wanted, you know, they wanted us to be freaking Bon Jovi meets Kiss or some shit. I don't know. So, you know, they'd push Eddie like, well, you know, get some guitars that sound a little nicer on there, and, you know, And we're going to do the what? Why? Just do a track of this clean 12-string on here. It'll sound great. And the next thing you know, that's like louder than everything else. And it's, and we'd done horns for a goof on the previous album, Stay Hard. So say, oh, let's put horns on one of these songs too. So we got in the Saturday Night Live horns, and they did horns on Don't Let It Die and on Hyperactive, which was fun, and we had the synthesizer guitar. So there's all these disparate elements which all added up to this glorious pile of shite by the end of the day, I guess, to a degree.
You guys were
Which is
promised
being
good tours
harsh,
too.
because I can listen back to it now and can understand, what we were trying to go for. And there are good songs in there. The only thing that's a little cringeworthy is maybe some of the lyrics. But again, look at Saxon back then, look at Judas Priest, look at every damn band that was on Atlantic. This was, this was COVID in the music business.
Yeah. And you guys, with the Pack is Back, you guys were, so basically they tell you guys, hey, if you guys do this commercial record for us, we'll get you guys tours. And also, didn't they promise you guys music videos? And there was no cash.
Of course, it was all that. And then we had a meeting, a day meeting at NFL Studios. So it was, cutting edge. And got the full tour. And they're like, oh, yeah, we got this new camera. We can mount it on the guitar. When you throw the guitar up in the air, it'll look cool. And we'll do this and we'll do that. And then when we went to Atlantic for a budget, like, no. But this is only 30 grand. We'd spent 50 on the one for On and On. No budget. Not doing it. So you make us basically build this huge freaking ship, and then you see you can't have any sales. So that was a case of we all had a very long soul search and went over and said, we're not doing anything like this ever again. From now on, we're going to make music that appeals to us, and we don't care if it appeals to nobody else because we're the ones that have to live with it. And that's how there was a, Twisted Sister are going to go out and tour. Great. You guys have got the tour. Excellent.
Does that come out and play?
Yeah. So let's do an EP, like a reboot. Let's do an EP. So we did the Mad EP, which was a lot more, back on track. And literally like a day or two before the tour started, I mean, we were like ready to go out to the tour bus and all this. Twisted cancelled the tour because that was their album that they were having all the bother with, and so we just ended up booking a headline tour and went out and toured with that. And following that, we did the Life's a Bitch album, which again was even harder, more intense, and that probably was the rot set in for Rob, along with the fact that he was married and had a kid on the way. I
was going to ask you, did you guys know before that you guys kind of get the vibe that he was going to be leaving the band pretty soon?
Not really, but he was acting weird on that tour where he'd want to drive the RV and he'd wear a checky shirt and go, hey, look, it's just like, his wife's father. Hey, it was like turning into Mountain Man, And he would do strange things like on one, I think it was actually on the, I might have been on that tour, the tour we did for Life's a Bitch with Wasp and Slayer. I'm going to play Match Grip. What? Like jazz, like like the way Neil Peart eventually did that change from beating it to doing this. So you can't do that. What was literally overnight, like 2 weeks. So I'm going to do this. So of course, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Starts playing the first song, gets like about a minute in, and goes, "Fuck this! I can't do this." No, that was never heard of again. So whatever, weird things like that. We did the record. We loved the record. The record came out halfway through the damn tour because they dragged us on getting it out. And the tour was Wasp, Slayer, and Raven. So we'd come out and it was all these 14-year-old specky Satanists, freaking Slayer fans.
Yeah, that was
who
Rain and
were-
Blood, right? That was that tour for them.
Oh, yeah. They didn't have Lombardo. They had TJ from
That's right.
Whiplash and drums.
That's the first time he quit. That's right.
Yeah. And so, but again, we'd been through that as kids. It's just like, yeah, who gives a shit? We'd play Overload. We'd come to the gap in the middle. Yeah, we just leave the gap, throw the guitars down. I'd climb on the barrier and go, okay, who's first? I'll beat the shit out of every single one of you little motherfuckers. Who's first? And they'd look and go, oh, these guys are gone. And they'd
That's
back
good.
off. Because before then, it was coins and 9-volt batteries and whatever. They'd just throw everything and just be like assholes. But we'd, we'd fight our pitch battle and win them over. But it was, I think we were only playing like 30, 35 minutes on this damn thing. It was stupid. So we'd play and then Slaye'd play, and then, inevitably half the people would probably disappear halfway through Wasp's set.
That was, yeah, because how was that, like, the bands back then to each other, like the Wasps and that was the Electric Circus tour for Wasp, I believe.
Yeah.
It's Slayer.
Well, we got to see Chris Holmes, just like in the movie.
in the pool scene, the famous pool scene.
Oh, yeah.
Man. He's...
But the funny thing was, whenever it came to playing, he was super straight, super focused, super, like dedicated. His sound had to be just right. He'd do the sound check and he'd be dead on. All that shit happened like afterwards. Afterwards, he'd be like gone crazy. Like Days Off would be like, I'm with a guitar tech, and all of a sudden these two huge arms come around us. Where you guys going? Oh, we're just coming. No, you're not. You're coming drinking with me. Oh, no.
That's crazy. And that was Rob's last tour with you guys, right? So, because is he with the Branford Marcellus Quartet now? Is he doing like sound for them?
Yeah, he does sound for them. Yeah,
Wow.
records them and does live sound for them. Yeah, tours all over the world.
That's crazy. So, yeah. So 87, and you guys would do another showcase, right? And then which kind of let you see the direction of what was next for you
the whole
guys.
thing was like, Atlantic doesn't understand. La 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 la. Let's do a showcase. Invite them down. Schmooze them. Get them behind us. Look for the next record. Blah blah blah. And we set this all up. They all turned up. I think we were going on at maybe, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock. They all
Was that
turned
Roseland
up.
also?
No, this was at the Cat Club.
Okay.
In Manhattan. So they turned up like about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then they all disappeared. The only guy that was there was Michael Alago, and he wasn't with Atlantic. Of course, he was with Elektra. They all left. And that was like, whoa. And that's, I think, literally where Rob said, I'm out. Would have been that.
Wow.
Because like about a week or two later, we got a message from the roadie who told the manager, who told us that he was done. He was, which of course pissed us off. And I didn't talk to Rob for like 5 years afterwards. But, he had a lot of other things going on. He was, messing with bad stuff, drinking too much, and had a kid on the way. And I was just like, I had to get out because it was taking me over. I had to get out. And, you got to do what's right for your health and for your family, obviously, And for him, it's worked out wonderful. I mean, he got a Grammy. He's done fabulous from that,
And you guys, that's how you guys would get Joe, because you guys had what? Reed St. Mark of Celtic Frost try out for you guys, and you guys went through some guys. How did you guys know that Joe was the...
Well, we already knew Joe. I mean, famously on that tour in Washington, Joe helped get the Wasp tour manager fired.
Really?
we were playing the beer xylophone in the dressing room. So Joe was in Savoy Brown, which was rebranded as the Kim Simmons Band. And basically Kim had he had Chris Romanelli, who used to be in the Plasmatics, playing bass, Joe on drums, Duck McDonald, who used to play in Bible Black, and Jimmy Coons, who used to be in a whole bunch of bands. He was even an Exciter for 5 minutes. And they were staying at the house. So, we got on with great with these guys, absolutely. And after try and read, there was no common ground. The guy hit the drums harder than anybody, but it was just like, oh, let's jam. Do you know Born to Be Wild? No. Do you know, whatever, Hell Bent for Leather? No. Do you know Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin? No. Oh, okay. So that didn't work. AJ Perro was supposed to come and he never turned up. Yeah, weird. Then the thought just came, well, Joe's great. Why don't we ask Joe? So we brought Joe into the studio down at Woodstock and we played a few songs and it was just like, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. And we already knew Joe played guitar and we knew his influences. He liked all the crazy glam stuff and he liked the Groundhogs and he liked Priest and he was a huge Sabbath nut and it was like no-brainer,
And this was in '88. You guys did the Nothing Exceeds like Excess. Was Combat, and you guys also did the Ultimate Revenge too, right? Which was at the Trocadero in Philly, which was
Yeah.
a total nightmare for you guys, right? I think there was even like you guys and Dark Angel. There was a bunch of shit that happened because of that show.
Well, they were sensible enough not to try and push that. We would have fucking killed them if that had happened, because we were definitely the elder statesman at that point. It was a badly organized fucking shit show. It's like, you want to do a video? Well, if you want to do a video, you got to do this. Oh, all right. Well, if we got to do a video, we'll do this. Great. Don't worry, we'll shoot it. We have all the footage. We'll be able to cut it together and mix it. And that was the thought, right? So we were playing, I think we were rehearsing until late in Manhattan, like SIR, something like that. And let's go down to Philly overnight, get in like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, go to sleep. Next thing you know, it's like 10:30. Some guy's beating the doors down. Why aren't you guys up? Well, no one told us anything. We're playing this fucking show at 9 o'clock at night. Why do we have to be up at 10 o'clock? Sound check's at 11. Huh? So no breakfast, no nothing. Get ready, drive. They drive us over to the freaking place. We get there. All the other bands are standing there looking at us like, oh, here's the rock stars walking in late. What a bunch of old fucking grizzled assholes they are. Oh my god, their fucking vibes were awful. I was, oh, this is nice. Ignored them, set the stuff up, get it ready, and then it turns out that one of the channels on the board is dead. So our sound man's a technical whiz, pulls the board apart. And all this, thinking, oh, they're just, doing what Riot did to us back in the day, stretch it out forever. No, we just want to be done and get the fuck out there and eat breakfast, for God's sake. But no, done that. So it's like, well, when he's doing that, let's focus the lights. Because TV, right? Basically, you're filming it, you need the lights. So stand on the mark, get all this together. Finally gets it done. Okay, we're finished. Where's the food? Oh, it's all gone. What do you mean? They've ate it all. It's all gone. So I think we fucking ate all day. And we were so mad. We were so mad. I had freaking Gene Hogan comes up. Love you guys. Favorite band. Huge influence. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody else said a fucking word. Years later, I have Craig Lossacero come up. We were dicks. We were assholes. We didn't understand. We were young and stupid. I understand now. And he's lovely. He's a great guy. Whatever. But it was just one of those things. And Terry from Death, great guy. Rick. But,
yeah. Ed plays with both of those guys, or has played with both of those guys.
Good people.
Yeah, they told me that show. They said that show
silly
was a shit
show. And as usual, silly situations when people don't discuss shit, and we were the fall guys. But we played that show, and it was like, why are we playing with these bands? They're totally different to us. There was no common fucking ground. So we played at the end, and there's great footage which we finally got and used some in the DVD we did. Mark like picked up a 412 who was walking across the stage and throwing it. But they got some girls to get up and start dancing at the end, like taking the Mickey. And it was just like, and just so many stupid things. It's just like they were ready to go on. They're like, oh, let's do the intro, like on the album. What? Yeah, let's do the intro. But we've never played it. But it'll be no. And it was a complete fucking train wreck.
Jesus.
But once we got going, it was okay. It was fun, and it's fun to have. So it's like, okay, it's done. When we start doing editing, oh, it was edited live. What? Of course, it's got all those fucking 1980s flip effects and, like bad porno or something, It's like, oh, come on. What about the audio? Oh, it's already been mixed. Oh. Well, we want to do a video. Well, give us the footage for Lay Down the Law. And we cut it with a studio version and put that out. And then after dealing with these clowns, where we'd turn up there looking for money, and the accountant, this old Jewish woman, going,
Raisin? You're with Raisin?
Raisin.
oh God. So we go up there one day. Mark's like, keep him busy. Keep him busy. All right. So, oh, how's it going? Mark's in the office going, 1-inch video master. Thank you. Got it. Ta-da. Those fuckers will never put anything from that out ever again. Good. Got it. And that was Bye-Bye to Combat.
Bye-Bye to Combat. And you guys, actually, that same year, you guys toured with Creator. And Creator actually covered a Raven song. They covered Lambs to the Slaughter in '88 on their EP. Yeah, and you guys toured. How was that tour in Europe? You guys got along well with them?
That was awesome, because that was one of the main bugbears we had with Atlantic was, in early '84, we played 3 or 4 shows in Holland. We were playing 5,000 seaters. We were that fucking popular there. We were doing killer. And it was just like, oh no, you can't go to Europe. We're not funding that. It's like, what? So we didn't get back to Europe until '89 on that tour. And again, it was a little mishmash with the genres, but they were great guys and loved the band, and it was a great opportunity, and we just went out and did our thing and killed, and it was great getting out and playing a real European tour, which, like I said before, we'd only ever played Italy and Holland and Belgium and a couple of shows in Germany. So this was a lot more extensive, obviously.
Well, 91, you guys would go to tour Europe with Running Wild on the Architect album, because you guys were doing, as you said earlier, you guys started doing independent labels, right? Like it was just easier than to
Yeah,
do
we didn't want to be tied down to that. And again, the concept was explained of licensing, where you hold on to your rights and you license it out for a period of years, and then you get your rights back. So yeah, that's way more appealing. Consequently, you don't get as much money up front because they're not owning it, but that's okay. So we, after doing the Creator tour, we started working with Drakkar Management, who were looking after Creator. And they got us a deal with SPV, and we did the Architect of the Year album, recorded it in Germany, which was awesome. That was a lot of fun. It was
Steelhammer Records. Was that
a lot of the sound? It was definitely a better sounding record than Nothing Exceeds, which was done on a shoestring budget, but sounded a lot heavier,
Did you notice like what that's a 91-ish area? Did you notice the change happening? Obviously, the with the whole like we were saying when you first came on the show, you've seen a lot of changes. You've been around. You've seen the scenes change from the hair, well, whatever you want to call it, the glam to the thrash to the then you got the grunge, right? And could you guys feel
Yeah, I
that?
mean, way back from the punk thing, we'd be playing the clubs, and they only wanted to, hire punk bands way back then. So we'd been through all this before, so you could see the whole glam thing happening. It went glam and thrash, and we were neither. And so you had that right until the end of the 80s, and then when the 90s started, then it was the grunge thing came in, and from what I've read, it was literally one asshole at MTV went, all right, we're done with this shit. We're going to play this instead. And that was it. It was just memory hold, like it never happened. But it probably would have happened anyway because music is cyclical. It's, you get 4 or 5 years or something and then it's on to the next, very much so. Yeah. At least as far as what's in the public eye and what's hot right now type of thing. So it was the grunge bands. So it was just like, well, then we'll play Europe. So that was 91, 92. We did an EP, Heads Up, and toured in 92. And then the grunge spilled over into Europe. And then we were writing. I had a house fire. We had all this stuff that put us back.
I saw that you lost guitars,
got
right?
a deal with our label in Japan through a friend of ours, and did an album in 94 called Glow. And then we went over to Japan for the first time in 95.
And you guys did Glow in Dover, Jersey, right? At the Showplace, which was a
which is
half
a place
strip
we
bar.
played. Well, we played there in
82
with Anvil. And we remember getting there, and it was cold, and there was the guy there, and there was a girl in a parka, and the guy looks at the girl and goes, "What you doing? Get up, start dancing." She takes the parka off, she's in a bikini, she gets up and starts. I say, "Oh, okay." So anyway, so the guy's showing us around the studio in 94, right? So this is years later. And shows it's all wood and beautiful, like every wonderful studio you've ever seen. There's this big door, he opens it, and it's all like the tape room. And there's another big door, and then you walk into the strip club. Hey guys, we've got this grip. Ah, shit, they're in there again.
Dover, New Jersey. I remember Dover. But you guys also played your first Japan. That was the first time you guys played in Japan. It was off of that record.
Yeah.
And that
was an experience. That was amazing. You'd be like, is anybody even here? You always have that trepidation on a show. Is anybody? Doesn't matter who you are. So is it full? Is it? And it's utterly silent. And they had a curtain, so I went in the middle of the curtain, peeked. It's absolutely jammed, and they're utterly silent. As soon as the lights went down, they all go crazy. They're all freaking nuts. But that was I got there, and I had no voice whatsoever. I had laryngitis. I couldn't talk.
Oh, you guys did a live album on that when you had laryngitis, correct?
Yeah, we're doing a live album, and I can't talk.
Destroy All Monsters.
Honey and lemon, and until that first note, I'm like, I might be able to pull this off. And so that was me with probably the worst voice I've ever had. Had to do the live album. They're like, well, we'll fake it. We'll do the vocals tomorrow. And tomorrow come in and say, it's nothing. It is what it is. And we had to sit there, and they wouldn't let us in. It was like, we'll bring you in when it's mixed type of thing, which back then was like sacrilege, and now makes perfect sense because you don't want to be sitting listening to a kick drum for 6 fucking hours. No.
Oh, yeah.
So we come in, sounds good. And we're just like, doesn't sound good. It's all low end and fucking bass guitar. It's not right. Fuck this. We're going to have to remix it when we get back, which we did. We remixed it in Long Island.
You guys did another album with that Japanese label, right? You did 94. You did the Everything Louder. And you guys toured Europe
Well,
with
actually, that was
Tank.
that was with the same label. That's right, in Japan. Yeah,
But you
and
guys recorded that faster, didn't you? You guys were kind of, you didn't have, it was all
yeah, that
shorter
was literally
studio.
done in like 4 weekends.
Wow, 4
Three
weekends.
three recording and one doing the mix. Boom, 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 boom. And sound wise, it suffers, but I think it's a great record. It's got some really good songs on it. So we did that, and things were starting to change in Europe. They got fed up with grunge, and one of the standard bearers was this young band called Hammerfall. So we took them out as opening band, and we had Tank on with us as well. So it was a great package.
And that was
And that was,
Hammerfall's first tour?
yeah. So that was a cool tour. That was really good. And it was hilarious because we talked to these German, the journalists. And they're like, oh, yeah, everyone was so down on heavy metal and they wouldn't listen to any heavy metal bands. But a band comes from Sweden playing German heavy metal and everyone loses their mind and goes crazy, and that turned the tide. It's like,
That's crazy.
there's a freaking logic in that, but hey, what the hell? Great guys, great band, and it was a cool tour, definitely.
99, you guys obviously put out One for All. You guys toured Europe with Udo. That was on Metal Blade, right? And in the States, and then I think Massacre Records in Europe. And then 2001, you guys.
In Europe, the label who will not be named. Yeah, okay, right.
The label that will not be named. You guys would do that. And then 2001, I'll let you tell the story because I know it's, it's kind of a crazy story with what happened to Mark, which obviously puts you guys back a little bit.
Yeah, we'd been writing and farting around to get stuff together. And our father died in late August of 2001. So we go over, so to tell it right, it's a long story. We go over for the funeral. I fly back on September 10th. He flies back on September 11th. Gets diverted to Canada for like 3 weeks. If you've ever heard that story, right? All the planes went to Canada and all this. So he gets back. He's up early one morning, pulls out into the main road. Some kid's driving with his lights off. T-bones him. Smashes his head off the glass. Got a freaking lump right there. And the next day he has to go and get some money off a friend of his who was working on a job site building a Walgreens drugstore. So he goes on the site, can't wear the hard hat, he's just got his cap on because of the lump on his head. It wouldn't let him put it on. So he's walking and the wind blows his hat off. And he goes to get the hat. And the wind blows the hat again. And he goes to get the hat. And then the entire building falls down on top of him. And if he hadn't had the accident with that, he'd had the hard hat on and he wouldn't have moved and the building would have completely crushed him. So as it is, it landed on his legs. And he had a piece of rebar through one leg. He had the calf ripped off the other. Both his feet were turned the wrong way around. He had terrible scarring all the way down his legs. And I get a phone call and he's giggling. How you doing, man? I just had a building fall on top of us. I'm like, oh, yeah, you been drinking? No. Talk to you later. And he was, adrenaline out of his freaking mind. Shock. Crackers. They had to medivac him out of there. And then it was like, he might not make it. And it was like, we're going to have to cut his legs off, to which he told them to, well, we're going to have to cut your right leg off. You'll never walk again. And he proved them all wrong. Which to me was just like so inspiring and ridiculous. The amount of work he did mentally and physically to pull through that. To the point that when we finally got back to Japan again in 2009 and played, and he did a knee slide across the stage, I nearly burst into tears.
Wow. Because he was playing in a wheelchair at shows, right? He was doing shows in a wheelchair. I mean, at the first call, he was, God.
Yeah. Yeah, there's at least one of those is up on YouTube. and he couldn't jump around, so he just had to play well.
That's crazy.
But he got I think the first gig we did where he was standing was a festival in Tampa in
2005, right?
2005.
Yep.
Yeah. And he had this big ass leg brace. And then he got a smaller one. Later in the year, we played Bloodstock in England. And we did that. That was a strange festival back then. That was all these little weenies with fucking Dungeons and Dragons. Everyone had a plastic sword and a fucking Viking helmet. And when we walked on, they're all like, hang on a minute. Where's the other two guys in the band? A band has to have 5 people.
5.
Got to have 2 guitar players and a singer. What's going on here? And it was, and I mean, you see that chat rooms afterwards. It was just like, it's literally how they thought. And everything had to be, we are riding horses into battle, going to kill everyone now. You know, it was all that shit. So it was pretty funny. But, you know, and bit by bit, he'd just strap his leg, and to the point where no one would even guess, you know. Amazing.
You guys came back 2009, like you said, with the Walk Through Fire album. You know, a lot of events. I know a lot of life events played into that record, but you guys did that. And what you guys played, you did a Euro tour of that album, a US tour, South America. I think the South American
that
was your first time ever there.
Whole bunch of firsts. We did a lot of festivals, which we hadn't done before in 2010. And we did like Wacken, we did Hellfests, we did Bang Your Head, Alcatraz, did all that stuff. Played, like you say, South America for the first time. And it was a rebuilding process, you know. We'd done Walk Through Fire, which was a good record, and it was just like planting the flag, going, okay, this is where we start from. Let's work our way up from there. Which, you know, we did. We consolidated what we were doing. We went back to Japan. We toured Europe. We did a lot of touring in the States, which it had been a while to do that too. And even came back to England and play some stuff over here. And that came to the next record, which was Extermination, which was a quantum leap as far as the writing and recording process. Because we're like, well, I like the last record, but there's a couple of things I was like, yeah, it's just, you know, why don't we like get really freaking nasty, really anal, really critical, and put the work in. Really put the work in. Is this song as good as it could be? It might be okay, but could it be better? What's this part doing here? Is this part?
You guys had a lot of songs to choose from.
Could it be better? And we'd really rip the stuff apart and rebuild it, you know.
And for that record, you guys wrote like what, 20 songs plus to choose from?
Oh yeah, that's been the modus operandi for like the last 3 albums. An awful lot of writing, and basically from that group of songs, you'll go, okay, what hangs good as an album? And the last 2 have definitely been, we want 10 songs, 35, 40 minutes, don't overstay your welcome, you know, bang, 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 smash them in the face, because no one's doing that. They're all going, oh, well, we've got 85 minutes, we can have our 15-minute extravaganza where I, you know, throw dots at the guitar for 5 minutes with echo on and see what that sounds like and all that nonsense. No self-editing. We make it concise and powerful and interesting, you know, to try and make it work. That whole Van Halen first album, Montrose first album, that kind of ethic, you know. What kind of impact did that have on you as a kid? It was like life-changing. That's what you want. You want that. So we've went with that, you know.
You guys also, that was your first time going to Korea. You guys also did obviously South America, Japan, again, the US, Euro. And then you guys so then obviously your drummer Joe had a heart attack. What was it? A couple days before that next tour, right?
It was 2 days. We had 3 was it 4 dates in the States, and then we had like a day off or something, and then we were flying over to do a tour in Europe, which was like an 11-day tour. And, you know, things hadn't been great for a while with Joe. And he was complaining all the way up to this, like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? You're going to kill me. I'm too old for this shit and all that type of thing, you know. It's like, eh. So he has a heart attack. And it's just like, oh, shit, what are we going to do? A couple of guys, you know, called around. We got a fill-in guy for Chicago, and I'd booked rehearsal, which we almost never rehearse, but it'd been 6 months. So it's like, book some rehearsal. So we had this guy, Jimmy Mess from Chicago, did a great job, brought him in, rehearsed for 4 hours, did the show. And then we flew to Jersey, and we got this guy, Mike Heller, who'd been playing with Fear Factory, who we played a cruise with the year before.
So me and Ed were at this show that Mike saw you guys at, I believe, on that cruise. We were at that when you guys played, which was awesome, by the way. That was me and Ed were at that one because now, and was it true that Mike wasn't even too familiar with Raven? Actually, he
didn't know anything about us other than we were the band that Metallica had opened up for. So he'd say, "Hey, this should be a laugh. This should be a laugh. Let's go check these guys out." And he loved it. He was blown away. He said it was fantastic. He was like, "What the fuck? How come I've never heard this?" You know, and one of those things.
I think on that cruise, though,
we saw them and we were hanging around and I'm making fun of. Look at this guy with a fucking laptop.
Yeah, it's because Fear Factory. Yeah, it's a Fear.
When he's playing with Fear Factory, he's playing to the record. They were all horrible. I can't play to them. They're out of time and out of tune. I play to the fucking record and they play to me.
We were at those shows actually. I mean, and you guys, and then when he joined, you guys did what? He joined in June, and you guys did like 150 shows or some shit like that by New Year's.
Yeah,
that's insane.
We killed it. Absolutely killed it.
And you guys booked a tour, right? I forget who you guys were playing with, but you guys, it was a 50-show tour, and you guys filled in the off days, right? So it was like when you guys had off days, Raven didn't take off. You guys still played shows.
That was Udo.
It was Udo? Okay, so that was
we
the
were
Udo
opening
tour.
for Udo, and they give us like, you know, horrible money, but we were like, well, we can make it up on merch. We can do good on merch, so we'll do it. But they were like, play a gig, have a day off. Play a gig, have 2 days off. Play 2 gigs, have 2 gigs. Like, we can't do this schedule. So we added like an extra 20 odd dates on that. So it ended up being like a 70-day tour.
That's crazy. You guys
they'd have stupid things like, they're playing Romania, playing whatever, Bucharest or whatever, and they're not paying you. You can do it for free. I'm like, nah, not doing it. We'll book
China.
We'll book our own dates, and they'd come up and go, I hear you're not playing tomorrow. No, we're not. We're doing our own. Why? Because they're not paying us. What? Yeah, they're not paying us. He says, I don't blame you then.
Exactly. And I have to ask, you guys played China in 2019. What was that? I mean, obviously I've never been to China, but how was that experience?
That was amazing. It was amazing because, I mean, you see, I mean, you still got that mindset where like, oh yeah, they're all got freaking pointed hats and they're all planting rice paddies, Whoa. I mean, Shanghai is like, it looks like Elon Musk's version of a city on Mars in 3000 or something. It's just insane. It looks, did you ever see the English TV shows like freaking, was it Thunderbirds or any of that shit? It looks like one of those things. It doesn't look real. Does not look real. And when we took the bullet train, they have a bullet train that's even faster than the Japanese one. And we went north to a town called, I think, Tianjin. It's near Beijing. And on that trip, it was like 2.5 hours. And you'll see like a group of 30 to 40 gigantic high rises. And this is where the people live. And there'd be one, and then another, and then another, and then another, and then another, and then another. And it was mind-boggling how many people live there.
That's crazy.
Mind-boggling. and the food was absolutely dreadful.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
We had a major fight about the food, that's for sure.
Ay,
Yeah, they
ay.
turned up at one place, and the guy kept ordering food. What are you getting? Don't worry. Well, let us know, because we're not going to like it. Don't worry about it. So the woman comes with a bucket. There was a bowl built into the table. She upturns the bucket, and in the bucket there's chicken heads and feet. And
That's what I picture. That's what I fucking picture. Yeah, a little bit. I got to be honest. Or
we're out.
frogs still alive.
Just we're looking for
Gross.
freaking pizza, Indian food. That's it. Because poor Mike, I mean, he's vegan. He could only eat white rice. He was living on white rice for 3 days.
Yeah,
Your meal looked like General Tso's chicken. Oh, this is good. And it's stone cold. It's a starter. Starters are always cold. Well, can I have something like this but hot? Okay. He's hot. You chop it all up with the bones in.
Oh
You
God.
take a big bite and the bones cut your mouth. It's just like
Jesus
and everything
Christ.
else is eyeballs and freaking
Gross.
It's like that.
testicles. No thanks. So we went to a mall. Let's go to the mall, go to the food court. And the food court was like 12 restaurants serving that and nothing else.
There was no McDonald's in there or anything like
Oh,
that.
no. It was
Nothing
all
like that.
eyeballs and, live fish.
God.
So we did find a pizza place, and we found a Domino's. And in the Domino's, they had, snail pizza.
Wow.
They had octopus pizza. But they did have regular pizza too. So. And when we went north, they were a little more accommodating and helpful as far as like, well, you might like this. And we got some decent food there at that point. Yeah.
God. Well, your first full length with Mike was, which is a great record, Metal City, 2020. Were you guys stuck in a hotel in like Belgium for a while writing songs actually for that record?
That was, we did the 3 shows with Mike, and Mike couldn't do the European stuff. So we had Dave Chadwick, who was in the opening band, Kill Ritual. He played those shows with us.
And he played with Manowar too, didn't he, Dave?
Yeah, he's playing with Manowar now. Yeah. So we'd done this one festival in Sweden with what's his name? He's playing with one of the Swedish bands right now. Fabio. He was playing with Fabio Andrelacciani.
Fabio from Annihilator, right?
He's playing with Jeff Waters.
Annihilator.
Yeah. So he came and did a show. He was great. Really cool. Young kid. He's like, 19, 20. What's your favorite band? Humble Pie. I'm like, oh, okay, good. So he killed that. And then we had like 3 days off. So we were in Belgium in this horrible hotel room. And yeah, me and Mark just wrote about another 4 or 5 songs right there and then, most of which went on the record, which was cool.
Nice. And when you guys write those, like you guys leave space, right, to change shit in the studio. So you guys do like, you have the song maybe written like 70 to 80%, and you leave little spaces out to like, so if you just kind of
not necessarily spaces. It's if something comes up that you can do better. I mean, obviously, as far as fills and solos, but you might say even at the last minute, like, don't play here. There's a drum fill. Let's leave out. Let the drum fill shine. Whatever. And in some cases, redo that part. This isn't working. But the idea of putting all that work in beforehand, so you don't have any of this. Oh shit, we got to change the drums or change whatever. And on Metal City, that was the first record since Pack Is Back where the drums were done to a click. Because we're like, oh, I'm going to get the studio. And Mike's like, no, I do the drums at my own studio. I'm like, oh, the click track? He says, well, I do it. So I listen to your tape and go, okay, this starts at this pace, sits back in the pocket here, pushes a little forward towards the end of the verse, sits back a bit, comes forward. There might be 30, 40 time changes in a 3-minute song. And when you do that, it sounds real. There's push and pull. But more importantly, and it's something you never thought about, it's like drummers, it's just like play the track, get a take. Doesn't matter if it's great or barely good enough. You got to take, and everyone does it. With this way, you do it, like a rough guitar to a click track, and he'll manipulate it, and then go, okay, what could I do here? What could I do there? And you use it as a writing tool, and you can say, and then come up with an idea, and then sit in the back and says, what do you think of this? Oh, I would never have imagined putting that beat there. That's incredible. And this one doesn't work. Try something else. So you go backwards and forwards, and then you come up with like a really cool, interesting drum track. And then it's because I'd listen and go, oh, I could do something great on bass on top of that. It would match that perfectly. Da, 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 da. And you'd come up with these ideas like that. Like solos and vocals. You'd have a template, and you'd do it, and then you go, can we do better? Or if I tried this here, and you'd get a take and then try stuff and see what it sounded like. But
you did the vocals for 2 days, right?
I think we did all the vocals in like a day and a half.
Yeah, 2 days I read. I was like, holy shit. That's crazy. That's a great record.
I was just in the zone, and it's working with Michael Wagner. He's so good. He's so right on the nose. I mean, you can work with engineers who have got no music. They're all technical. They've got no music. So it's like, just go back to the beginning of the verse. Where's that? No. Somebody like him. Or Mike. Mike's incredible, obviously, because he's a musician and he's got the smarts with the technical. So you don't have to say a word. It's just like, let's do that bit. Boom, right there. And that used to drive you crazy in the old days with tape machines, especially if they were synced. Mm-hmm. Let's go back, and by the time it came back together, you're like, what the fuck were we doing again? Oh, fuck off.
Exactly. Yeah, and before we get to the new album, I wanted to ask you, obviously you guys, Metallica got you guys involved, which I thought was really cool. You guys did the Johnny Z and the Marsha show. That was 2022, correct? Can you tell us how you got involved with that? Obviously, the history.
We were doing the new record at Mike's, and the concept came up of why don't we sit down with James or Lars and talk about the Kill 'Em All for One tour and video it, and we'll have that for a future project. Great. So we asked. James would love to do this. They're on tour, they're in and out, but it should be back in about 2 weeks. And we were in the middle of doing it, so it's fine. So get in touch. Yeah, it's on. So we're not going to screw this up. We'll go up the day before, stay at the hotel so we don't get stuck in traffic or anything stupid like that. And we get there and we walk in. The girl who handles them brought us in, and it just looks like an industrial area. You'd never know what it was. We get in there, and there's two rooms. There's the room you usually see them jamming in on all the videos, and then there's another room which has a lot of equipment, and I guess they have like the isolation for the speakers and all this nonsense that's in there. This has got a big space. We'll put a table here. We'll do the chat here. Before we come in, we see Lars. We see Kirk. No, we didn't see Kirk. We just saw Lars and Robert. Yeah, because they'd been doing stuff, and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing here? It's pretty funny. So tell him the whole thing. He's like, okay. And James is coming later. So we walk in the room. We're looking at this. Let's put a table here. And then we look and we see this flight case with Burke Shelley Budgie written on it. Like, no. And turn around the corner, and there's the amp and two of the cabinets that he used when we saw Budgie in 1975. Marshall Major 200 watts. And then he shows us the studio, and the guy Greg's there, really nice. And he looked and he goes, is that? He goes, yep, that's the bass. Burke Shelley's precision bass from back then. And he goes, and Robert's been using it all over the new record. It's the best sounding Fender Precision I've ever recorded. Not only is it that, but it's got all that history. And when we talked to James, he says it had to go to a good home. And that is so awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, definitely.
When Burke died, his wife sold the stuff, and he goes, I've got to have this. He goes, but look at this. And they went in the other room, and up on the wall, he's got the original Thin Lizzy mirror sign with the lights around it.
Oh, that's badass.
We bought that on auction as well.
That's
Yeah.
And that's so
awesome.
cool. In that clubhouse, they got all their flags, or all their stuff around the world, but they got stuff like that, which is, just points to the fact that they're fans.
Big
Fans
fans.
with deeper pockets than we have, but they're still
Yes.
just fans, so that's good.
We couldn't afford
And we
the Thin
sat and
Lizzy
had a
sign.
great conversation with them, talking about the tour and all this stuff. And at the end, I said, if you've ever got any opening slots, there's this little band from Newcastle. We're available. We do parties and all this. And he goes, well, we've got something we're thinking about doing in Florida. Oh, let us know. I'll let you know. 2 weeks later, you want to do the show. And it was perfect because it was right at the end of our tour that we booked. So perfect. So we got treated like gold, and it was a fantastic evening. Lots of old friends, people there, people like Chuck from Testament, all the people from Jersey. Obviously, John's and Marsha's daughters. And we've got to talk a long time with the Metallica boys. It was great. That was really cool.
Very awesome. Do you
But
remember?
you can see it. It's on video.
Yeah.
They
Do you
come
remember the
on.
last time you talked to Johnny?
Yeah. It was literally a week before he died.
Crazy.
Oh.
Yeah. So 2023. Let's talk about them.
I've been playing him freaking demos of the new record. He loved Metal City. He thought it was the best thing we'd ever done.
I know he was a big Raven guy. Like even when I read his book, you could just, it's just big Raven fan. Yeah, Johnny Z being from Jersey, like I said, the flea market and stuff. It's for us. It's like it was growing up there. It was a big thing. I mean,
Oh,
it's a
absolutely.
big part of our history.
I mean, and that we really latched onto that because New York and Jersey, it's very like the northeast of England. What you see is what you get. If people are good people, they're going to be good people right through. They're loyal, they're hardworking, and there was, it definitely jibed with us big time. So we have a history and an affinity with Jersey and New York for sure.
Yeah, you guys lived in Jersey. What part of Jersey did you guys live in for that time period?
Well, we were at John's. We were at a guy called Mark Mary's house in Bayonne. We were in Bayonne for a while. Yeah.
It's crazy, but
Johnny influenced a lot of people. He helped a lot of people become who they are today. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice getting to hear that. I mean, there was a time which tied into like I was saying about Mike, like not knowing anything about the band. It was almost like there was a concerted effort to wipe us out. I mean, there's people involved with that book, the Johns, that the initial print and stuff that had there was adverts and stuff didn't mention us at all.
It's crazy. Yeah.
And when I told him, he went ballistic and changed it, got it changed. So around about the time of that Trocadero show, I mean, the guy who runs Blabbermouth famously reviewed the concert and said we were shit, right? There's a photograph of him lying on the floor, unconscious, during the show. So that tells you all you need to know. There was just a cadre of people like, they're old, this is new, we don't like them, fuck them. And you just got to, just brush it off. And I mean, looking for record deals. I remember, 1990, 1991, talking to a guy. You guys were great. You guys were such a great band. You should hang it up. Hang it up?
Jesus.
Well, 80s is over. I'm like, fuck you. We're a 70s band. We were formed in 1974.
Exactly, 74.
I didn't go through all this shit to listen to a fucking whippersnapper like you tell me this. So what's cool right now? He goes, corrosion of conformity. I'm like, really? Wow. Let's see where they are in 20 years. Fuck yourself. and your family. Bye-bye. See ya.
Exactly.
And proving
Yeah.
that guy wrong has been so sweet. The best revenge is good living, you know?
Well, I'll tell you what's a proof in that is, and we opened up the show tonight with Edge of a Nightmare, which is a killer. I mean, it's actually like I was like, well, what song do you play to start out the show? And it was that whole fucking record is killer, man. Mike's drums on are awesome.
It's just
You
out of
guys,
control. And that was the whole thing. It's just like, which song do you pick? Because they're all
yeah,
good. And that was the idea. They all had to be really, really good. You know?
just a killer. You guys, and what was cool for you guys is you actually, so you recorded it at Mike's studio, which is Heaven and Hell are studios. How nice was it to actually it was basically just you three, right? I mean, I know you guys had
Well, that's it. I mean, because there was so much backwards and forwards with Metal City where, we had an abortive start to recording that we had to cancel the whole thing out. And then we ended up recording. Mike did his drums at his place. We ended up doing everything else with Michael Wagner. And then the mix wasn't good. We had like 3 guys before we got the mix done. This way it was just the 3 of us. And Lassie Lammert, who did a killer job on the mix and also technical advice through the whole thing.
And he's the German engineer, correct?
We had this one freaking thing, like, he goes, check the guitar on this. He goes, there's something wrong with that guitar. Can't be anything wrong with it. And the freaking guitar, the pickup was an 1/8 of an inch too high, and it was sucking the life out of the low end. So you change that, and all of a sudden the guitar breaks and say, you got to redo those 5 songs that had like 29 guitar tracks on his. Shit. So he just rattled them all off again in like 2 days, so we didn't lose that much. But it was just the 3 of us, just burning the midnight oil and getting it all together. And Mike's got more stamina than any engineer we've worked with. I mean, ridiculous.
Yeah, the drums on that record
that can burn you out really hard, and we were burning out before he was. That's for sure.
That's and you guys. So what do you? So that came out. What was that? Was it June or July?
June 30th.
June 30th
this year.
And the artwork was done by the Croatian artist, which is like Maggot Meister. He did work for Armored Saint and Hyrax and stuff. That album cover, because Metal City was kind of like comic book style, but this one was more like a movie poster kind of in a way, right?
Yeah, that was definitely comic book because we had like the barcode and the comics code. Just like if you looked at an old Marvel or DC comics, we had all that insignia and what have you all the way through it. This was a follow-on from that, but a bit more movie-ish. Yeah, that's for sure. And it's cool because it's striking, and then when you look at it, there's layers and layers and layers and layers. You get to see the spiders with the laser beams and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a killer record, and I know we've kept you here. It's been like over 2 hours, man, and we totally appreciate you coming on it. But I did want to mention one thing. You actually build your own. You and Mark both build your own gear, right? You build your own guitars and stuff.
Yeah. What do we got here?
Just see this. Well, I've seen some of these on.
This is the granddaddy of them all.
Oh yeah, the red, nice.
The Beat to Death Red Explorer, which is sounding very good right now.
That gives it character.
I've got. What do we got? I'll show you at least one of them.
Oh, the V.
The white flying V.
Yeah, man.
And I got the red one with the trem, and I've built him like 3 flying Vs. He's got a black one, a white one, and a red one. And the black one's over in England at the minute, but it's amazing. We're just like, here's like, boop.
Nice.
Plywood.
Yep.
And that's basically what it starts with, because contrary to popular opinion, using extremely expensive tone woods from the Amazon and all that makes no difference. It's all about, it's really all about the pickup.
That's awesome.
So, that Red Explorer, I know that because that's plywood, and I've had that now 43 years, and it sounds better than ever. So we were amazed when we made the Flying V and plugged it in. He's just like, "Wing!" I was like, where's all that sustain coming from? That's crazy. Like, I don't know, but what a killer sound guitar. So he did the leads on the new album with the Black Flying V I made. And I made him a Telecaster with an Evertune bridge, which is a device which is, once it's set up, you don't go out of tune. It's basically like having a guy at the end, just every time you go out a bit, just twitching it so everything stays perfect, which for recording multiple guitar tracks is just, it's a godsend.
Yep.
It's fantastic. You
That's
hit a chord
awesome.
and it just goes ding like a bell. It's brilliant. It's so good.
That's awesome, man. We really appreciate you, John. And what's next? So yeah, well, we'll ask you the obvious question. What's next for Raven? What you guys got? You guys ending the year this year, and then what's going on for rolling into 2024?
US tour is on our minds, but before that, it's actually a UK tour. We're playing in February. We've got Girls' School and Alcatraz out with us, the three of us together. Doing like, I think they're going to add at least one more show. So that's probably like 7 or 8. That's going to be great. And then we're doing the States, which I'm fighting tooth and nail to get information about as we speak. But that's looking like mid to late March through April into May. We're putting a good package together, and it's going to be really cool.
Awesome, man. Well,
And in between that, I'm writing. I'm making riffs.
I was going to ask you, are you starting to write some new riffs? Yeah, because has Mike brought some new blood into the band? Like, has that gave some new energy having Mike in there now with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we sat down. I mean, Mike contributed riffs with the new one, and obviously, arranging. I mean, he put his 10 cents in on Metal City, but we upped him to 25 cents on the new one. So, I mean, and he's came up with, there's like at least 2 or 3 song ideas from him that I'm messing around with and developing and adding stuff to, and we'll go backwards and forwards on that. Because when we did this album, we had maybe 30 songs, and some of them would be a case of like, nah, and some of them would be really cool but not developed enough. I don't like this bit, or I don't like this bit. And other ones were more fully formed. So it's just like, all right, well, what we got? What would be a great opener? What would follow that? What would be a great end? So we basically pre-selected the running order and said, okay, this is what it's got to be. And we changed one song round, and it made it all perfect. Made it work perfect. So we were onto it. We had it down.
Awesome, man.
Because that's almost a lost art as well. It's like, front load, 4 or 5 great songs, and who cares about the rest of it at that point? No, you want the whole thing. You want the whole thing. You want to listen to it all the way through, and hopefully you want whoever's listening to be blown away. You don't want them to be bored. You don't want them to go in like, how much longer is this going on for?
Yeah, no filler. No filler tunes, man.
No filler.
Listen, the new record.
No filler.
The new record doesn't sound like you're a band from 1974 or 75. I mean, you guys have definitely evolved, and you sound, in my opinion, better than ever. But then again, I can remember being in New Jersey and my dad handed me Stay Hard. And I'm like, what is this? Because my dad wasn't a heavy metal guy. He just wasn't.
Yeah.
He brought me Ozzy Osbourne, the live one with Randy Rhoads after he was gone, and Twisted Sister and Quiet Riot. And then he brought me this, and I'm like, what? And then I remember looking on the back and obviously the hockey gear, and I'm like, this is incredible. When did you start wearing that, the gear? What?
When we first came over, we had a few days off. We were in Manhattan. There was a hockey store by Madison Square Garden.
Of course.
And those two were looking, and Rob's going, I've got to get the helmet because I'm fed up with sticking the nut on the cymbals and getting cut. That would be cool. And Mark's like, knee pads, brilliant. They look cool, and I can slide on the floor. And got them there and then. So started wearing that stuff then, and it would just develop a little bit from there.
Killer. That's
And
awesome.
speaking of Killer, weren't you jam? You were jamming with Paul Di'Anno, right? In Killers. What happened with that? That
Yeah.
was like a like that. Just what was that? A 2-year project?
2-week project.
2-week project. Ah, there you go.
Well, it was good for me because we played with Iron Maiden back in 1980, and mysteriously all my money disappeared out of my coat. And a certain Mr. Di'Anno was seen waving, "Look what I've got," as he walked off the pub. So I put 2 and 2 together and was pissed at my ex-wife for not telling me at the time, you know. But wind it forward to the end of the tour in whatever it was, 92 or something. And Paul's manager is a guy I know well, a friend of mine, says, "Paul's doing showcases for the record companies to get a new deal. We need a bass player. Are you free?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm free."
This is how much I need.
Really, this plus what was taken from me way back when. And I never mentioned a word. And Paul was a sweetheart, and he was great. And we had Cliff from Tank on guitars, and Steve
Cliff
from
Evans,
Tank
right?
on drums, Ray DeTone, who's a Jersey boy, great guitar player. And he got a record deal playing Battlezone songs and Iron Maiden songs, pretending that they were new songs, and record company executives were stupid enough to believe him. And we did a live record right there at 547 West 27th Street, Manhattan. That was the South American Assaults, which is live, but the crowd is the worst dubbed-on crowd you've ever heard. But it's a live record. It's fun.
You know, yeah, and we always bitch about something on this show, and I would love to hear your opinion before we let you go. Talking about crowds, like how about all these like the artists using all these track machines now? I mean, is this like how bad is this? You think like in another 10 years, is there going to be like any live performances anymore? You think, or is it just? I mean, it just seems like it's getting worse and worse.
On a certain type of music, there isn't any right now. You know, I just think it's an integrity issue. You're a live band. You go out there and you play your music. And the one I've always used, I mean, this is Queen. You couldn't have found a band that had more overdubs and more overblown productions than Queen. And until 1982, when they added Spike Edney, who played guitar and would play keyboards, they never used any tape other than that one bit in Bohemian Rhapsody where it was totally obvious it was a tape because they all walked off stage. They didn't pretend that it was something it wasn't. And yeah, there's people like The Who who did, you know, like Baba O'Reilly and what have you with that, and they played along with it. So there's a grey area. But I think the grey area disappears when you've got bands like
walking away from their
Sabotage with
microphone.
all this heavy keyboards. There's no keyboards. Heavy vocals. There's no vocals. And I've seen bands with songs starting with bass guitar and there's no bass guitar player in the band. So, you know, it's like I say, there is that grey area. But once it turns into like you're miming, I don't go for it.
Yeah, I've seen singers like walk away from the microphone.
We're just augmenting what we're doing. It's just like, well, to me, it's cheating, but you know, to each their own.
Yeah,
well, it's like the Chili Peppers when they played the Super Bowl, and you see Flea jumping around, and he doesn't have a cable.
He's not plugged in.
There's nothing in his bass. He's jumping around playing, and there's like they didn't even pretend like to plug in. It was like
they were pointing it out.
Right.
Didn't Prince play live?
Prince? I don't know if he at the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I know there were a couple people
that one. I think that one would have been really hard to fake. It looked real.
Yeah,
I know there's other people. Nearly everyone that's on, it's just like, nope. You got a mime. There's no way around it.
Yeah, we saw somebody. I forget who it was. Ed, you might remember. We saw a singer a couple months ago. She was like, she got mad at a fan and was throwing something at him. But while she's moving away from the microphone,
Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, the vocals are still fucking going. It's like Jesus.
Yeah. And it's just ridiculous, man. And I think because I remember Metallica was asked And I think that's why they turned it down, because they're like, we have too much integrity to go out there and fake that shit. There's no need.
No. And they won't. The producers won't. They don't want the wild card of oh god, this went wrong.
Right.
It's like when they did that thing with Lady Gaga and the mic went off. That was horrible. But you know what? It was real.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
enjoy it. It was fucking real. It was the real deal. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's
what it's about.
Yeah,
you got to embrace the unpredictability part.
And some of that shit, like you listen to live recording, some of the best stuff is the little flubs, the little things that make it, that little scars that gives it uniqueness.
Listen,
you know,
listen to Deep Purple, made in Japan. When it's what's the freaking song, man? Child in Time. He's good. He's tuning up in the middle of the solo. It's brilliant.
It's great. I mean,
because it's human. Yep. Yeah, the human element.
John, what is the best live album you think? I'm gonna say UFO Strangers in a way. I gotta kind of go there, maybe. Blue Oyster Cult you mentioned earlier. That record. I mean,
too many. There's too many.
Yeah,
I really love all of them.
It's kind of a lost art now, though. The live album, I believe.
Live at Dangerous.
Budokan,
Dangerous in the Night. The two Yes ones, Yes songs and Yes shows are magnificent. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Genesis Live, the first one and the second one. If a band's worth their salt, the live albums are usually elevated. Humble Pie, Performance.
Love Humble Pie.
Deep Purple have so many. They got Made in Japan, Made in London. Was the one that killed me as a kid because I taped it off the radio and it wasn't put out for like 35 years. That's
I remember taping off the radio. I remember those days. You know,
I was a kid playing soccer out in the street. I told my sister, turn it off at 8:30. I didn't get to hear the last 2 minutes of that song for another 40 years.
That's great, man. John, this has been awesome. And like I said, I know we've kept you for a while, man, but I really appreciate it. We've been looking forward to talking to you, and it's been awesome.
Man, it's an honor.
Much appreciated, guys. And we hope to see you in Jersey very soon.
That's right.
It's looking like April, and it looks like a nice venue too. So I can't see anything yet, but we'll let you know.
Hopefully, play Florida.
Watch out! I'm on the Facebooks. You got the Official Raven on that. You got the Official Raven on Twitter, Instagram, and OnlyFans. We're on that now.
OnlyFans, yes. Ed, we got those too. Yeah, exactly.
Chaps.
I got 30 cents last week. Yeah.
Hey man, we really, like I said, we had a great time, and John, we'll say goodbye to you when we hang up here, when we sign off. But everybody else, you can find us on Ed. You want to spiel it out?
Spotify, Apple, probably Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, the Tampa Morgue at gmail.com.
All those things.
Send us something.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate everything. John, again, the new album,
Thank you.
All Hell's Breaking Loose on Silver Lining Music. Killer record. Make sure you check it out, and check out Raven when they hit your town. And
an absolute awesome career.
Yeah,
awesome career, man.
Yeah, I said, I go, man, how are we gonna ask John all these questions about him? You know, but he stayed through it all, man. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody, we'll see you guys on the next Tampa Morgue. And everybody have a good night, and we will see you on the next episode. Peace.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Cheers.